Thank you, sir.
Show them all. Head around to the front, John.
He's right there ahead.
It's a real kind of bag, man. 24 pounds and 12 ounces. Austin Wilson, here's your new PBF Living the Dream, current TBF National Champion. Great start. You know what those fish can do for you.
We was making it rain 8-pounders. We were like Oprah, you get a trophy catch, you get a trophy catch. Everyone gets a trophy catch. Pow!
Welcome everyone to Lake Toho in Kissimmee, Florida for the second stop of the 2019 FLW Tour presented by Ranger Boats. Only 30 anglers are left to battle it out today and make the top 10 cut to move on to fish tomorrow, the fourth and final day, and a shot at a $125,000 payday. Good morning, everyone, from the Polaris FLW studios here in Benton, Kentucky. I'm Travis Moran, and joined for the next 2 days in studio by Peter, let me see if I can nail this, Flaveros.
That was perfect.
Oh, that was...
that was so good that you won't have to do it again today. Just go with T.
Yes, we will also, AKA Peter T, as you guys may know him. We talked about this. So many years of experience fishing at the top level, Pete. You know, you started in 1996, inaugural year of the FLW. You also won Angler of the Year that year, so you will always have that. You were the first Angler of the Year.
They can't take that away.
Your first tournament in 1982 was your first professional tournament on Lake Toho.
On Lake Toho.
So we're going to definitely get some insight from that as well. And then, interesting fact, just last weekend, your son Nick winning on Okeechobee. So that's got to be a proud moment as a father.
It's a very proud moment. Now I'm no longer Peter T. I'm Nick T's dad. So,
Absolutely.
Until the next tournament. That'll last until then the competition starts again. I'm back Peter T.
Well, congratulations to Nick as well. And hopefully you'll be commentating him on live before we even know it here.
Well, he will have an opportunity to qualify to fish the tour again, hopefully this year. And if he does and gets the sponsorship and the time off, he'll be up there with the big guys and he can play.
Well, very nice. Peter, you live in Florida. You have a lot of experience working with these finicky little Floridian bass. Why don't you break down this body of water? We call it Lake Toho, but the reality is there's a lot of fishable water for these anglers.
This lake is Central Florida, and it's one of the premier lakes in the state. Has been for years, and what's really cool about it is it's a series of lakes joined by canals. The main lake, Lake Toho, where we take off from, is the northernmost part of the chain. We're literally at where the whole chain starts and goes all the way down to Lake Okeechobee, connected by a series of canals. At the lower end of Lake Kissimmee, it turns into the Kissimmee River, runs into the Lake Okeechobee, right at the town of Okeechobee, and comes right out at Okatani Marina. So this system is a tremendous watershed that comes all the way down through the middle of the state. You start with Lake Toho, you go through the locks, and the next lake down is Lake Cypress. You go through the series of canal right there, through the lake and into Lake Hatchinahaw, and down through another canal into Lake Kissimmee. The bottom end of Lake Kissimmee, there's another lock, and that's where the contestants cannot go through that lock and go any further south. They don't need to. There's, I don't know how many acres of water that they can fish in that chain. They don't need to go any farther. One little lake that's off of Lake Kissimmee is Tiger Lake, that's also connected through a canal. We may see an angler go through there. A couple anglers go through there today. It's hard to say. There's only 30, so they're going to spread out. They're going to move to all those lakes and take advantage of all that water.
Well, now, a lot of water to fish for these anglers and a lot of different tactics. We have changing weather, and which is going to mean these anglers actually have to make some adjustments and maybe move from responding fish to more of a reaction bite.
You know, when you fish FLW to expect the unexpected. I was amazed. The first 2 days of this tournament, you got a picture of John Cox up here landing a fish the first morning. Bright bluebird skies, you know, sun out, no wind, perfect conditions for the sight fishermen. The guys that were sight fishing found fish on beds in practice, got to take advantage of that for 2 days. Now FLW comes in and throws us a little curve, which is always the deal. We've got some changing weather conditions throughout the day for today and tomorrow. Higher winds, some clouds are expected, maybe some rain. So it's going to change their approach. There's some guys fishing open water. It may play into their hands. You can see that the fish that they're landing, they're usually pulling up some grass, some hydrilla with it. That's a key ingredient in this body of water, especially in Toho and Kissimmee also. The hydrilla is where the fish live. And you know, it's just like condominiums to you and I. They're going to take up residence in that area where there's lots of cover for them to live in. And the guys just have to figure out how to catch it.
Sure. And there's a list of some of those tactics we've discussed a little bit about.
Yeah, I mean, the sight fishing is pretty obvious. You literally go through there in the clear water. You spot the fish on those white spots. You back off and fish for them visually. Try to intimidate them, trying to get them to bite. Pitching to isolated cover in the dirtier water where you have less visibility. Once you get down to Cypress and Hatchnahaw, Kissimmee, you have a little less visibility, less hydrilla in those waters, so the water clarity isn't as good. A lot of guys are pitching to isolated cover, to lily pads, to the maiden cane or Kissimmee grass clumps, you know, soft plastics, big technique down there this time of year, very successful. And then the moving baits, you know, the guys that are fishing moving baits in the open water hydrilla, that can be a very good and very easy way to catch fish if you isolate the one little area that they're holding in that grass. So there's a lot of opportunities to catch fish. I mean, I call it a Florida swim bait because it's been the most popular and most successful and easy way to catch fish. A Zoom Ultra Vibe, Texas rig, throw it out and literally fish it like a swim bait like you would in California. One of the most prolific techniques this time of year for catching fish in the state. You probably got a lot of guys doing that in addition to the traditional swim bait styles. So a lot of opportunities, a lot of different techniques. They're going to catch fish all day long doing this stuff. And as the day gets better, you know, as the day goes on, the fish will become more active. You know, slow start in the morning because of the changing weather conditions. The sight fish have been beat up, so there's a lot of fish that aren't available anymore. The guys that are making, you know, moves right now are the guys that are fishing the more open water techniques are going to have better opportunities to catch fish.
Absolutely, and a lot of opportunities to catch fish, and a lot of opportunities at some mega bags. We've seen some record-breaking limits coming to the scales over the last 2 days, and on day 3, as we've seen on live many times, it's adjustment day. You've got to make those little adjustments. Day 1 and day 2, you kind of carry out what you found in pre-fish, but then by day 3, you got to make that adjustment and figure out what's going to take you into that top 10 cut and make day 4. But you guys are going to get to watch it live for the next 6 hours. We've got cameras on our top 5 boats throughout the day. And some other things coming up on the schedule, on the agenda here. We're going to be heading over to Flippin, Arkansas to take a look at Ranger boats to see how these legendary boats get made and get delivered to the customers. I'm really looking forward to that because I've only owned one boat my entire life, and that's been a Ranger. So
that's right.
I'd like to see a little bit of this inside. I'm looking forward to that. Some other thing, we'll take a look at our international anglers that fished the Costa Championship last year. And then for you guys watching, whether you're on Facebook or on YouTube, leave us some comments, ask us some questions that I may try to answer, but obviously we've got Peter T to really go into depth with some of those things that you guys are wondering as you're watching. But then, like always, for your most in-depth coverage of this event, head over to FLWfishing.com, where you can watch not only the live event, but we have a live leaderboard that's updated by our marshals constantly throughout the event, so you can follow along with where everyone is at. And then we have extensive coverage from our on-the-water reporters that's continuously updated throughout there. So, Pete, we've got a lot of fun fishing to watch. Hopefully we'll see some of these 8, 9, and even 10-pounders brought into the scales. But before we head out onto the water, because the anglers are out fishing right now, we're going to get to our live action, which is why everyone is tuned in. Let's take a quick look at our leaderboard. Pete, John Cox, the man to catch up with, set a record 31-pound catch on day 1, and he's kind of been riding that one into the day 3 here.
Absolutely. John is a native Floridian, lives, basically right there. He has the advantage of knowing the real intricacies of the sight fishing game, as well as what to do when it's not available to him. So he's a super threat throughout this entire tournament, and he set a benchmark at the beginning with that 30-pound catch, and he's been riding it. He's been pushing it right along, and that's kind of the tactic and the technique for this event this week. The way it's set up with the high blue skies the first 2 days and no wind. The sight fishermen took advantage of it, took what fish that were there available to catch. You saw big stringers coming across the stage. Now with this little bit of weather change, the guys that are going to make these adjustments are going to be the most successful, and some of them are probably doing, the guys that weren't catching them really good, but were catching enough to stay in the top 30, might have the opportunity to move forward today with a different conditions. So, there's always changes that are going to happen, and we're sitting here now in the studio. We're getting ready to go live to some of these anglers and see what they're doing on the water and the techniques they're using, and I think you're going to be kind of surprised at what you're seeing today.
Yes.
There's no sport in the world, other than maybe golf, where your emotions go up and down as much as they do in a single day than you do on the water like this. It is, one minute you feel like you're a king, next minute, oh my God, I just missed another one.
And that's,
maybe this wind's got him pushed up there a little further, I don't know.
We're looking at Aaron Britt right now. He's fishing some open water hydrilla. I spoke with him last night. He's pretty confident in his techniques and his approach to this one, and he's doing the right thing for the conditions right now, throwing moving baits.
Like I said, it's been slick, Rick calm both days of the Derby, and go figure the wind is blowing directly into where I've been fishing. It's not bad. I mean, I've certainly fishing worse, but if anything, you think it'd make these fish bite a little bit better. Being from California, when it blows like this, it's usually on. I don't necessarily know that Florida fish react the same way. They seem to be a little bit more stupid. But, I don't know. I've had 2 bites. I've only been fishing for about 40 minutes. So we're pot committed. I mean, I got some stuff in Kissimmee, but I'm not going to risk taking the time to, 2 hours or whatever it's going to take. 2 hours of time I lose a fish and to go down there to catch them when I know what's living here. I mean, I've caught both bags over here, so I can't imagine this wind messing it up too much. It might affect a little bit. It might make it better, it might make it worse, but I mean, I haven't, this is pretty similar how both mornings started out. It's not like I jacked them early. I caught, first day I caught a big one pretty quick, but we'll keep plugging away and see what happens here.
He's absolutely right at what he's saying.
Yesterday morning, too, when it was calm, they were chasing. You could see them skipping needlefish across the water, blowing up everywhere. Now, I mean, the good thing about being slick is you could hear them. You don't necessarily have to see it. You could hear it, and when you hear it, you turn, you cast on, they show themselves, and generally you catch one. But right now, you can't do that.
He was talking about possibly making a move through the locks. The time factor involved in this, in those kind of moves, if you're not committed to it and you wait too late, it can really mess you up throughout the day. You're worried about making those locks instead of worried about catching the fish, and it kind of plays into your psyche a little bit while you're fishing. But the guys that stayed in Toho are going to have the maximum time to fish. The guys that make it through the locks are going to have to adjust their fishing schedule to deal with that.
During the tournament, you know, I stopped here and practiced and caught a few little ones, but as I've been sitting here for as long as I've been sitting here the past few days, you really get to understand where everything's at and kind of how to go about it. Me and Larry Nixon we're fishing it both days, and kind of a cool treat to get to fish next to him the past couple of days. Oh. Oh.
I kind of think he just needs to be patient, do what he's doing. The fishing will get better as the day progresses. Typically, these early spring tournaments, as the water warms from midday on, is when the bite gets the best. And, you know, where he's fishing, there's just so many fish in that grass bed area that they're scattered out through there. They haven't left. They're there. He's just got to wait for them to decide to bite or trigger them to bite with a different presentation or a different technique.
You know, if I don't catch them, I can just blame it on the wind, you know. It won't look as bad. God, I'm just hitting this grass so perfect. Huh. And I haven't backlash yet. That's a plus. Problem with wind is usually like
Well, looks like the wind is affecting a little bit of the cell coverage today. Not only the fishing, but the cell service. Now, you were talking about, you know, part of the strategy of going through the locks and stuff and time management. And an interesting factor of that is actually Aaron Britt was waiting for the lock day one. And, you know, there was a little bit of a line, so he ran over to this spot here that he had found in pre-fish, found some smaller fish, but then immediately hooked up with some bigger fish, never ended up locking down. But one of those things, while he's waiting, he wanted to extend his fishing time, make sure he's getting as much as he can, and that ended up being a huge factor in where he's at now in this tournament.
Absolutely. That lock area itself has got a lot of fish around it, and a lot of the anglers take advantage of that when they're waiting for the locks. If you can get in there and throw, you know, towards the buoy line, right there in front of the lock, there's always fish there, and I've watched a lot of guys, when I've been waiting, catch fish while they're waiting to go through those locks. What he did was move a little bit west of there, and that area is just, like I say, it's so many fish that live in that area all their lives, and all he did was, you know, figure out a little isolated little area, a little hole in the grass, which is literally, you know, you've got a grass line out there that comes to the surface the closer you get to the bank, and then there's little depressions in the grass that these fish will hold up in, and that's the kind of area he landed on and keyed some bites, got some key bites out of it, and, you know, decided to stay, and it was a good move on his part. So, you know, he's got the extra hour and a half of fishing time by not going through those locks. The guys that practice down in Kissimmee, they've committed down there, and that's what you have to do. So once you've made that commitment to go down there, then your time management becomes a factor. It's not so much getting down there as much as it is getting back. If you just happen to miss a lock time, if you cut it too close and you come to those locks and the doors are closing, you've got to wait an extra 15, 20 minutes for those locks to open back up and let you through on the next wave. That might be the difference in you making the way in or not.
Sure.
You really got to plan extra time in there, and it cuts into your fishing. You better have something on the other side to go spend some time on once you get back in there and catch some fish and make your day end in the right place.
We are.
Split screen view here. Both these anglers started the morning in our top 5 spots.
Right. That looks like Scott right there. And
we've got Braxton Setzer on the left and Buddy Gross on the right.
Okay.
Which is actually a funny point, though, that this morning, a little cooler, windy, and these guys have kind of their rain suits on. You can't really see their uniforms as clearly as you are a little bit later in the day.
No shorts this morning, that's for sure. That wind coming off that water. Water's probably 60, mid-60s in the morning, warming up to the low 70s during the day, especially the first 2 days when it was flat and calm. So that water's a little cool when the wind's blowing off of it. You got to cover those legs up. Plus, they make, you know, it's a 10-minute run down to the end of the lake that they're fishing on. So, you know, they've got to do a little bit of maneuvering down there to get in the right position. And see some boats in the background. I don't know if that's both of them fishing the same area. Looking at that shot of Buddy Gross, there's a boat beyond him. I don't know if it's Braxton or not, but either way, there's an awful lot of water out there.
Oh, there we go. That's the look.
Mm-hmm. Pretty close to each other. They're you know, with that grass being the way it is, they're literally miles apart. Even if they're within sight of one another, you can miss that one particular cast. A lot of times, that's all it is you're fishing, trying to hit one particular area and make the right presentation. And these guys could be side by side and fishing different fish because there's two different holes in the grass or depressions that those fish are holding in. Looks like Buddy's throwing a spinnerbait right now. He told me last night that he was throwing swim baits, swim jigs, you know, everything was a moving bait for him. And he said he had some sight fish the first day, missed an opportunity to big fish that would have made a big difference for him in his weight. But that just kind of happens when you're sight fishing. You don't land all of them. There's Scott Martin.
Our first look at social media superstar Scott Martin.
He's got that Florida swim bait on. I mean, that's just a way to catch them. I mean, if you need a fish down there, fishing around hydrilla and those pads and maiden cane grass, the scattered stuff like that, that Texas rigged swimming worm, usually the Ultra Vibe speed worm, Zoom, is a known producer. And, you know, I bet everybody in the boat that's out there today has got one tied on. Scott's got one in the live well already, so, and he told me last night he was going to make the run down to Kissimmee. He had abandoned the spawning fish. He felt like they were done, you know, that he'd caught everything that he knew about.
Pretty popular spot. There's 5 or 6 of the top 30 in this little bay. It's just not a real big bay, but it's got a lot of short hydrilla all scattered around. And the technique this week, these fish have been coming in and going out, so you're catching some post-spawn fish and some pre-spawn fish that are staging up in this grass. So it's kind of a unique little deal that we've got going on right now. Most guys are throwing reaction baits. I'm swimming a worm right now. Been throwing lipless crankbaits and some chatterbaits as well. Just power pulled down, really. I think this is the little area that they're kind of using to come in and out of. I call it little bass trail, or kind of like a deer trail. I think the fish are using this part of the bay to come in and out. I feel like I'm sitting kind of on the intersection here. And just fan casting around, really, you know. Good thing about power poles, you can just be real stealthy, real quiet, just sitting dead still and kind of work everything over. The biggest tip I can give anyone fishing in a small area like this with a lot of pressure, I mean, you can see the boats all around, is being a little versatile. I've got 2 variations or 3 variations of lipless crankbaits rigged up. I've got 2 sizes of swimming worms, and because I'm not moving, I'll make 5 minutes of cast with a swimming worm, which is real quiet. Then I'll pick up a lipless crankbait, do the same thing, and just kind of rotate, give those fish a little bit of a break, because as they're just kind of chilling in here, they keep seeing baits going over top of their head. They get a little used to it, so you want to try to show them something different.
Here's a Ranger replay of one of the fish Scott caught earlier this morning. It's one of and the only one that he has caught so far this morning, but
Well, if you're only going to have one, that's the right one to have. I mean, that's a good fish right there, a great way to start the morning. You know, when you catch a 2.5 to 3 pound fish like that, You've started your day off right. You know you're in the right area. And like he said, those fish are around there. You've just got to stick with them until they decide to bite.
And Scott, no stranger to winning these tournaments as well. You know, and he's made that adjustment to where he fished Toho most of day one, a little bit of day two, and now he goes straight to Kissimmee to start day three.
And that takes a lot of confidence. I mean, if you're fishing an area that you know has got a lot of fish in it, and you decide to make a move to another area that you think has fish in it, that takes a lot of confidence. So, I mean, that's the kind of fishing that it takes. You got to step outside the box to be successful.
Hard time today seeing them. That's what I did on day one, but I really didn't think I could stretch out a 4-day tournament sight fishing, so I kind of exhausted all of my fish on day one. Caught a good bag, obviously, and we'll see what happens now with switching gears a little bit in the last couple days.
Talked about no stranger to winning. There's 8 FLW Tour victories, the most of all time any other angler.
Over there. He's in his boat.
That's impressive. I mean, I guess only David Dudley is right behind him in that stat, and man, he's just been super consistent
so far. And I stayed up on Toho day one. He's been having a good tournament as well. He's due for a big bag.
It can be a little intimidating to be fishing within sight of Scott sometimes, because you know he's going to have the key spots, the key areas where those fish are kind of dialed into, and he's going to know what you're doing and know, you know, the cast you're making. So it can be a little bit intimidating sometimes. It'll make you fish differently, make your heart race a little bit if you're nervous, and change the way you fish and cause you to miss some. So it's interesting to hear him say the guy's due for a big bag, you know, where he's at. That tells you that Scott's really familiar with the area and knows what the capabilities of it are. I myself, I kind of like fishing around
this week on the Guggen Bait Bandito bug, flipping in the reeds. I've got it rigged up on a jig and also been pitching it a little bit. That bait works real good later in the afternoon when those fish will sit up on those isolated reed patches or the pads. Been flipping that, but in the mornings, just getting out here on these grass flats, just covering water with these reaction baits. It's been kind of the pattern. And then and this happens a lot in Florida, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, the sun gets up a little bit. A lot of times the biggest fish in the area will sit up on vertical cover, whether it's a point of pads or a patch of reeds in the area. So you can go to a spot like this, 11, 12 o'clock, start flipping some of the reeds and the pad points. That's how you can catch a real big one.
It's almost like you forgetting he's fishing a tournament and not doing a TV show right now. He's doing a great job of explaining his techniques. But like I said, I kind of like fishing around Scott. That tells me I'm in an area where there's a lot of fish too. So it kind of boosts my confidence. It might make other people nervous, but I'm like, hey, let's share these, guys.
Now, Scott is a great multitasker. Like you just said, talking about the baits while he's, you know, one of the leaders in this tournament. But the other thing Scott does very well is let the other guys fish for him. If he's got guys fishing around him, you better believe you're actually working for him. Every time you miss a fish, every time you don't catch fish, he's figuring out what you're using, where you're casting, and putting that into his repertoire and figuring out what he needs to do to make those adjustments according to what you're doing. So
absolutely.
An amazing, amazing competitor, which has got him the record that he has now.
Mm-hmm. He definitely pays attention to what's going on, and he's not going to crowd you, but he's going to fish behind you and pick up some leftovers or catch fish that you're not catching, doing something different. You're right, he pays attention to everything that goes on in the area where he's fishing, and that's one of the keys to being successful. You're not, you know, you're using every tool that's in your repertoire to your advantage, and sometimes it's not just baits. I mean, sometimes it's technique, sometimes it's just confidence. Knowing that you're in that right area where the fish are at, watching other guys catch them, can work for you, can work against you. It just depends on your attitude. And Scott's never one of those Debbie Downers. I mean, he's always positive. He's always looking at the positive side of the fishing, and he's going to take advantage of it. And if he can ruffle your feathers, he will, but not intentionally. I mean, if he's going to do it by catching fish around you, and letting you know. He'll hold it up for you to see sometimes. I think he's up in the North Cove area of Kissimmee. That's a big area. That's where hydrilla normally stays year-round in that part of the lake. And you can see, like he was talking about later in the day when the water warms up, getting to the vertical cover and making a presentation there. Right now he's in open water, fishing those scattered hydrilla clumps, patches. And where those fish that, like he said, are staging, waiting to go in, coming out, it's the best of both worlds. And at this stage of the game, you've got both of those things happening. So he's doing the right thing in the right place.
And although he seems to be fishing slow this morning, not that slow. It has
right.
Screen locked up a little bit right there. But a little bit more about that area he's fishing. There are a lot of boats in there. We got some drone footage that I took a look at yesterday. There was something like 16 anglers in that little
doesn't surprise me
there.
at all. I mean, that's a very popular area, and it's popular because there's a lot of fish there. And the good thing about it is you can spread out a little bit. There can be a lot of boats there, but there's so many targets to fish, so much water to fish that you can spread out, and it can take that pressure. Now today, there's probably half that many there because we've eliminated all but 30 in the field. That'll open it up quite a bit more, give you more room to move around. But like Scott said, it's a multiple presentation. You can't count on one thing to work for you. You have to mix it up to be successful in an area like that. And I'm sure everybody there is probably doing the same thing. I mean, they're probably all switching up different baits. And timing is the key on that. Really and truly, you have to be in the right spot when those fish decide to bite. And it can happen for you in 10 or 15 minutes. One group of fish moving in or one group of fish moving out, you happen to be in the right little area. You heard him talking about a lane, that he felt like he was at the intersection of a travel lane for those fish, or a trail. That's one of the key patterns on that entire chain, whether you're fishing visible cover or underwater cover. If you can find the little deeper sections that the fish are using to travel through, they're just like human beings or other animals. The path of least resistance is the road they're going to take to go to these places. They don't want to swim through the heaviest cover. A deer's not going to walk through the thickest stuff in the woods to get to where he's going. He's going to follow a trail that he's walked for years. And bass are no different than that. So you find these little intersections and you can hit the right one at the right time, you're going to do well.
All right, I'm going to have you break that down a little bit more because it looks like he's just fishing open water. A lot of viewers just watching that. And I actually would like you to break down a little bit more of what that grass situation is and stuff. But first, we're going to look at some John Cox's catches from, I believe, earlier this morning. Oh, from day one. Oh, this is some good stuff. Weighed in over 31 pounds day one, and here are some of those fish that contributed to that huge bag. And there's some of the vegetation you were talking about.
That pretty green, healthy hydrilla, that's just habitat for those fish. And they take advantage of it. You can see right there in the background, he is within sight of takeoff. He burned the first 2 days. I bet he didn't burn a gallon of gas. Only had, he burned more starting his engine and idling out than he did going to where he was fishing. So,
and not only seeing the takeoff spot, but also look at the water. Yeah. So calm right there, just that glassy look. But now today we're going to see a totally different look. Here we are with our first live look of John Cox, who has made a long run. I haven't gotten a word of actually where he's at right now, but I know he's not in Toho today.
No, he started in that spot again this morning and fished it for a little while and decided to make a move, which is not uncharacteristic of John. I mean, he knows what he's doing. He's a Florida angler. He knows exactly what he needs to do. He knows that conditions have changed and that the area that he was fishing has played out. Just like Scott said, he was fishing sight fish. He didn't feel like there was any left. He worked them over pretty good. So John's moved into another area.
There we go, and our first live fish of the morning.
Yeah.
Got one.
And and I just got word he is at the top of Tiger Lake right now.
Okay, that doesn't surprise me a bit. The boat that he's running allows him to go through that canal, which is very narrow and skinny, gets him to those fish.
Now look at this. What you see right there is not a fishing tool. That's actually for our cell reception. And now John Cox just apparently adjusted a little too much, and we now froze up. But we did get a live look long enough to see him put one in the boat, and he is. We confirmed that he is in Tiger Lake, which is a huge move. He spent both day 1, day 2 in Toho. Now, this may be a move of experience out of him, because 2017 we were on the Harris Chain of Lakes. He weighed in a mega bag, 25 pounds, day 1, just like he did this tournament. Day 2, 18 pounds, slid down a little bit, but was still at the top of the leaderboard. But then day 3, only 10 pounds. You know, that spawn bite, faded out on him, and then he couldn't reconnect. So what we might be seeing is a little maturity out of John Cox. He is using past experience and knowing he's got to make an adjustment. Probably can't rely on bed fishing throughout 4 days of a tournament.
You really can't, and the area that he was fishing in Harris Chain had a limited number of fish in it. He probably caught everything that was there the first 2 days in terms of the big fish. He was hoping, some more would move up, but like I say, there was a limited number of fish in that area. He was too good. He was too good, and he didn't leave himself any. This move...
I keep myself from trying not to look in the water, because the problem up there on Toho, it's so clear, I'm wanting to sight fish, and I just wasn't happening. There wasn't much movement, but we're going to give it in here a try for a little bit. Maybe we can get a couple of big ones, and then we'll head back up there, go look in some of that clear water, try to find us another 10-pounder.
He's fishing again. Where he's fishing for spawning fish or fish that are setting up to spawn. Very shallow water right there. Throwing a bladed bait, his favorite technique for searching and catching fish, and he's gonna catch some more fish in that area. Tiger does not get a lot of pressure. I mean, it's one of those lakes that you kind of have to know where to get into it. You can see that there's a lot of cover there scattered around, and once you get in there, you can have it to yourself. And I don't know if there's any other competitors in there, but certainly right there where he's at, he's alone. So it's a good move for him. And the fish are there to support, what he's doing. He can catch a big stringer of fish. Last year, the last time we were there, Scott Canterbury took advantage of that water and caught some big stringers of fish and moved himself. Actually, he finished second in that event to JT Kinney. Majority of his fish, he moved around a lot, but the majority of his good fish came out of Tiger Lake, and I think he had it completely to himself. So this is not a bad move for John. I mean, he's doing the right thing, and like he said, in a little while, when the water warms up, he may head back to Toho and see if he can find a big one. Whatever it takes to keep moving up on the leaderboard, or hold your position in his case. And his technique the first 2 days was to blow it out, and then just keep catching them steady, and hopefully everybody else around him doesn't. And he's trying to make that move to do that.
Yeah, he did a good job on day 1. He set the all-time day 1 limit on Toho.
Yeah.
31 pounds, 9 ounces.
And that's what these lakes are capable of. I mean, you can do that in Kissimmee without question. You could probably do 35 pounds in Kissimmee. If you get on the right little patch of stuff, then those fish have moved up. One of the techniques that's the most successful this time of year, when the fish have committed totally to the spawn, is a weightless, Senko type bait, fished in those pads like you see right there in front of you, or as light a weight as you can get away with, depending on the conditions. You want to pitch it in there, and it's like watching paint dry, but it's so effective for catching those bigger fish. All you have to do is find that one group of pads that is holding that big group of fish, and you literally won't have to move the boat. You'll be within a 50-yard area, and you could catch 30 to 35 pounds of fish with no problem. It's pretty calm there where he's at right now, but you can hear that wind blowing, and you can see it. How much it's blowing is.
What we got going on
Shirt
here.
tail is fluttering pretty good.
There's a bunch of little isolated lily pads, and what we're hoping is that the water is a lot dirtier. We're hoping that there's some fish spawning in them. And like where we just caught that small male back there, we're going to fish down and turn around, come back, and we'll probably make a few more casts there. And maybe there'll be a female. No, I haven't come to this area yet. I like this area. I just, it was more, I was waiting for it to get windy, Because it's the way this place sets up. It's perfect for the way the wind's blowing today.
It's all about strategy. Just knowing the conditions and knowing the area. He's so familiar with this chain of lakes. He knows where he needs to go under these conditions to be able to fish and to fish effectively. And he's taken advantage of that knowledge right now to put himself in an area that's going to possibly be productive.
I'm looking at the unofficial leaderboard here, Pete. Tom Dickerson started the morning just barely making the cut to get into fish today in 28th place.
Right.
He's already filled out his limit, including 2 6-pounders for 19 pounds.
That's awesome. This early in the day, I mean, he's only got room to improve.
Absolutely, absolutely.
He'll be one of the big movers at the end of the day. Let's see if he can move up into the top 10.
And then once again, you're watching our leader so far, John Cox, 1 fish right now. We saw he has 1 fish, and that's been the only live fish we've seen so far today. A lot of fish have been caught. And speaking of that fish, here it is. He said he was going to circle back around, see if there's a big one with it. The only angler that we know that's fished Tiger Lake so far this entire week, making a huge adjustment to start day 3. We're coming up on our first break. Don't go anywhere. Plenty more live coverage here on the second stop of the 2019 FLW Tour on Lake Toho.
Change something up. Sorry. Sorry. Huh? Oh, okay. Are they, they're not still on there? Good. What? I really can't find what I'm looking. Huh. Jesus. Really didn't bring them.
And welcome back to our Day 3 live coverage here on Lake Toho, presented by Ranger Boats. There is the unofficial leaderboard so far, and I think the biggest highlight right now is Tommy Dickerson starting the morning in 28th place. 19 pounds unofficially. We've got 2 6-pounders in his live well that have been reported. What a way to start Day 3. Exactly what he needs to do to make an attempt at making that top 10 cut and fishing the 4th day. Absolutely. I mean, there's nothing he can do now that'll mess his day up. He can just improve on it. And I mean, once those fish are in the box, he's on his way. So, he can improve if he stays in that same area and more fish keep biting. There's no telling the potential. Like I said, anywhere in those lakes, there's a 30-pound stringer. Mm-hmm. You land on it just right, and he needs about, 3 bites? 3 more fish that weigh 4 pounds plus to go in the box, and he's got it. Yes, He's got a great stringer going there, so there's unlimited potential out there. 30 guys, a lot of water to fish. And there's a live look at our split screen. John Cox on the left, and then Scott Martin on the right. Both unofficially with 1 fish in the live well so far. I like watching the split screen. It's almost like they're head-to-head. Mm-hmm. It's almost like they're battling out together, but they're in totally different sections of the lake. Scott's up in the North Cove section of Kissimmee, and John's over in Tiger Lake, which is miles apart. So. Let's see what they do. There's more fish leaving than there is coming. So I'm kind of working my way out to the outside edge. Just caught a small one. Kind of see John there. He's put down the bladed bait and started pitching. A little slower presentation, more precise at the targets, looking to hit one in the head, basically. Little thing that, FLW, we're serious about fish care. We take really good care of them. And I caught that fish, that best fish I caught earlier. He got the worm down his throat, what we call a tongue hook, where it hooks them kind of in a bad spot. They bleed a lot. If I'd have just been out fun fishing, practice, and caught that fish and threw it back, it'd die. But what I did is I got weights, these little clips. Let me see. These little clips right here. If you want to hold the fish up, just kind of tilt him to his side
See the little clip right there? I put that clip on his fin, and it holds him upright. And also, I put a little Rejuvenate on that wound. You know, it had a cut where that hook was. I got it out real clean, but they just bleed real bad. I put a little of that on there. This works good, G-Juice works good, and I'm able to keep that fish in real good, calm conditions. You know, it's not hot out. Got the clips on him, got the oxygenator, the Teenage Marine oxygenator on. So that's gonna keep that fish and allowing him to kind of build up some strength. So later on when we release him, he'll swim away good. But if I'd have just thrown him back, the way he was bleeding, he'd be floating in an hour. So, got to keep him alive. I think he's going to do good, though. That's what you want to do. When those fish get on their sides, that's what you don't want. So get those little lead clips, put it on their bottom fin, and it just kind of keeps them upright. We get a penalty, 4-ounce penalty for a dead fish, so we're as serious as all get out. 4 ounces is a lot of weight. I've won tournaments by 4 ounces, and I've lost tournaments by 4 ounces, so we're deadly serious about keeping the fish in fantastic shape.
Scott speaks for all the anglers out there when he talks about that fish care. You know, so important to keep these fish alive, and you know, all these anglers feel terrible when a fish comes in that's dead. Not only losing weight, but these are all conservationists. You know, all these fishermen.
Absolutely. I mean, we care about every fish that we catch. We know that we're stressing them out by putting them in a live well and keeping them all day long, making a long boat ride with them. But the guys that take the time to put a little bit of chemical on them, to make sure that their live wells are full the whole time that they're, you know, actually stopping and filling their live wells on their run back in to make sure that they've got the proper amount of water in them, and just paying attention to your live well system, make sure it's running. A lot of guys sometimes, you know, you'll get in areas where the weeds could possibly clog your live wells, and making sure that you have those live wells running properly the whole time. Aeration is the whole key to keeping those fish alive throughout the day, and it'd be a shame to come in and lose a tournament because of a penalty like that. So it's important to keep an eye on those fish throughout the day.
And if you want to see any of those fish come into the scales today, there's going to be the live weigh-in at the Big Toho Marina. Before that, there is an expo going from 2 o'clock all the way to 6 o'clock today. A fishing expo with tons of fun things for everyone in the family. And then we'll be watching the weigh-in of the top 30 and figuring out who makes the top 10 cut. But we'll be seeing hopefully some more 9 to 10 pound bass coming across the scales.
Oh.
See me clear all these clips. So we're recording all this. So you get to watch it on live, you get to watch it on TV when it goes, and then you also get to watch it on my YouTube channel. So if you guys have not subscribed to the Scott Martin YouTube channel, check it out. Practice video is actually going to go up today. So you'll get to see how kind of I approached this lake and how I broke it down. And then we'll have the tournament videos up here real soon, so go check it out when you get done watching live. Okay? When you get done watching live, go watch the practice video.
Scott's done an amazing job balancing, you know, his tour schedule as well as being able to be everywhere on social media.
You know, being the dinosaur that I am, social media just has totally lost in that realm of activity. And Scott is, without question, the master of social media at this level. He is just incredible what he does, and just juggling it all at one time, just like you say. How do you have time to do that? How does your mind work? My mind is not that fast. I swear to God, you should watch me text. It's awful. My son laughs at me. Every time he sees me text, it takes me about 3 times, 4 times longer than the normal person. And forget it, you know, a teenager does it with 2 fingers and without even looking at the screen. I'm so lost. But yeah, Scott's the master of social media and a tremendous angler, and just, you know, I don't know how he does it all. It's a lot of energy. He must keep Red Bull or something like on a drip. you know, somewhere in the boat where he can have all that energy. But, you know, looking at him, he's as calm as he can be.
Yes.
You know, his camera presence is pretty incredible. He really has a great sense of what he's doing and where he's at.
Well, not only is he one of the leaders in this event so far, a great chance at winning this thing, but also he's on FLW Live, one of our most talkative, informative anglers we've had so far this morning.
Right.
And then he's filming his own show. He's got his YouTube series that he's got to make sure. And that's not an easy thing to do. Yeah, you know, he's got cameras throughout the boat, but he's got to change the batteries throughout the day. These cameras, they get you know, water splashed up on the lenses, the batteries die, and he's got to update all that stuff throughout the day while still trying to figure out how to win this event against the best fishermen in the entire world.
I don't see how you can take the time to do it. It takes concentration on every cast for me. And you know, just little things that take away from your concentration sometimes will cost you a bite, you know, cost you missing a fish. And Scott does a great job of managing all those things at one time.
Eelgrass in this little zone. There's a hole right there.
Looks like Braxton Setzer is fighting a fish right now.
A bite.
Here we go. That's a lot of fishing action right there.
He has got one. He's throwing a lipless, or not a lipless, but a jerkbait. He said he was going to kind of mix that up. He'd been catching them on a jerkbait and a lipless throughout the week. Maybe this right here will give him a little idea of what's going on and keep things moving for him. He's a Missouri pro, and he's throwing those, he called it a dual hardcore jerkbait, and, you know, he's putting it to use. Missouri's you know, based out of Florida. Obviously, they're a Japanese-owned company, but they produce some really good products, and a lot of guys use them, especially in the state. That Missouri Vibe lipless has been a staple on that chain of lakes for years. I mean, we've caught a ton of fish on them. It's just got a different vibration, a different rattle, and sometimes that's what it takes. I mean, those fish get tuned into certain sounds, and then the more they hear it, the more they become immune to it. So changing up something like that has a different speed, vibration, a different tone in the water can be the difference in catching those fish.
Consider when you're fishing here in Florida, especially on the Kissimmee Chain, Okeechobee, places like that, is number one, you need to find the cleanest water, clearest water. Muddy water, you just can't catch them. There's a lot of places in the country, guys look for muddy water. Here in Florida, they want clear water. That's number one. So you find the best looking water. Then once you find good looking water, then you try to find the right kind of grass. Hydrilla, eelgrass, but the trick is finding some little open holes, stuff like, you know, where it's broken up a little bit, and then finding the right depth that these fish are in. You know, trying to figure out how far out or how far in are the fish spawning. That's all based on water level. Right now in Kissimmee, the water's up a little bit, so there is some fish way up shallow, but just paying attention to water depth, clarity, and grass. If you follow those three rules, you'll find fish when you're fishing in Florida.
Scott's absolutely right about that. No matter where you are in the state, it's critical to find the cleanest water that you can find. The fish just do better in that. And, you know, he touched on it there a little bit when he talked about the vegetation, and I think we're going to try and hit on that a little bit later on in the broadcast. Talking about the vegetation, Toho and Kissimmee have hydrilla, eelgrass, you know, the submerged vegetation, that's the habitat for the fish. Another lake that's not very far from there, the Harris Chain, is loaded with hydrilla. And so far this year, the tournaments that we've had on those bodies of water have produced the biggest stringers of fish. And it's all because of the habitat. Oh, Scott's got a fish there.
Get out of here, Webster.
Nice keeper. Never good.
Power pull down.
There you go.
And I'll tell you a neat little thing I just noticed. Like I came through that little 50-yard stretch right there. The water was, as I was talking about clean water, I looked down, the water was kind of milky. It just cleaned up, like right here. This way that it's blowing out of this marsh. This might be where the fish are.
It's so amazing.
Number 4.
The little subtleties that can make a difference throughout the day.
Straight braid. When you're swimming a worm like this, you don't need to use fluorocarbon. This P-Line X braid, 50 pound. It's got a little Teflon coating on it, so it's smooth. Favorite rod. This is a Phantom.
The common denominator in these lakes that I was talking about is
Water
that
just cleared up just a hair. The way that wind's blowing current through here, there must be a lot of mud back in there that it's sucking it through.
is the submerged vegetation that I was talking about. I mean, those lakes have got it. It's nothing but habitat for the fish, from the bait fish all the way up to the, you know, the bass. Habitat is critical, and the lack of it really hurts the fishing population. Okeechobee, when we were there last week.
I've got the Garmin Panoptics on. If you want to see how this looks, come up here. That's real shallow water. This is shooting out in front of the boat. You can see as it right in front of the boat here, 25 feet out. It's pretty thick grass. You can see how hard the return is. Then you can see some, if I move the trolling around, you'll see some holes. Like that's a hole. There's some more holes off that way. It doesn't shoot that far out in the shallow water, but you can see a hole here and more hole here in those.
Scott said Panoptics. I'm wondering if that's live scope, which is the new technology that Garmin has got out that has really started to change the way we fish. I mean, it's basically an underwater camera. You're looking at things as it happens. You can see fish swimming.
Bill, use your electronics is key for me. Garmin Panoptics is a real. You'll even see the fish swimming around in that stuff sometimes.
There you go.
That's exactly where that fish came from.
So taking advantage of every tool on the boat, fishing has moved so far forward in the last 10 years, it's amazing to me just to be able to keep up with the technology. But Garmin has really stepped out there, the new live scope. Started out with Panoptics and now has gone to live scope, and it's pretty incredible what you're able to do with that equipment. Back to the vegetation issue. Okeechobee, when we were there at the Costa, there's zero, maybe 1 or 2% hydrilla left in the entire lake. But the catch at that tournament compared to these other two lakes, that Harris Chain and Toho, the winning weight was like 42 pounds for 3 days. And after 2 days here at Toho, you've got 46 pounds. So even though there were different conditions, it's still, Okeechobee is way off from what it should be. And it's really got a lot to do with the lack of vegetation, the lack of habitat for the fish to be in.
Not too often you have to put on a down jacket in Florida. And I'll be sweating here in about 2 hours, guaranteed, because it's going to be 80 degrees.
All right, Peter, we've seen these anglers make some adjustments so far today. Cox fishing a totally different area. Scott Martin changing some things up as the wind comes in. Let's break down now the TH Marine roadmap to victory.
Well, obviously this tournament, the first 2 days, under the conditions these guys were fishing, the sight fishing was the key to being at the top. And I mean, those guys took advantage of those conditions, whacked those big fish on beds. And today, you know, the third day of the tournament, conditions have changed, so they're making some adjustments, moving baits in open water, trying to find fish that are coming and going out of these spawning areas. You know, they're just outside of where those fish spawn, and they're doing a good job of you know, exploiting that right now. And one of the things that I think will play into this tournament before it's all said and done, there could be a topwater bite. And when I say topwater, Florida is notorious during the spawn for having a very good topwater bite happen. And if some of these guys pay attention to it, they can smash a big stringer of fish. A topwater bait will, not only early in the morning, but all throughout the day during the spawn, is a very effective way of catching fish. And there's two methods of topwater. One is the actual topwater hard bait, prop bait that we like to throw down there, something like a devil's horse or a boy howdy. Super effective bait, fish slow around these spawning areas. And the other is the moving topwater baits like a zoom horny toad, something like that, that's almost essentially a soft plastic buzz bait. Fished around these spawning areas too can be super effective for catching good fish or locating fish. The topwater bait's really interesting because whether you catch the fish or not, if they show themselves, then you know exactly where you need to cast. So it can be effective as a search bait and, you know, putting fish in the boat. So that's something that if some of these anglers key on it, could be a player before the thing's said and done.
Now, John Cox, unofficially 2 fish in the live well.
We haven't got any big ones yet, but we just switched from the white to a black chatterbait, and we caught a small one out in the middle of nowhere near the pads. So that told me pretty much nothing. Keep on chunking and see if we can't get one of these big ones.
Well, we know John's not crazy because, you know, he's not doing the same thing with the same thing, expecting a different result. So he's definitely not crazy. He's changing up, going through some of the same areas with different baits or different techniques. I saw him earlier pitching the reeds and the pads with a soft plastic bait, Senko or something of the like, and you know, making a presentation that way. Back to the moving stuff again. You know, that's just telling you he's got confidence that there's enough fish in that area. He's just got to figure out what they're going to trigger on and how to catch them.
I've got another update with Tom Dickerson here. Another 6-pounder
there you go.
In the live well, like you said. He
is
has
in
3
the
more
right
fish
water
to go. And so he's now got around 22 pounds.
There's our big mover of the day early.
Yes,
I mean, you know.
yes. The rest of the field, we've got a few guys that have filled out limits so far. Josh Douglas, Joseph Webster, David Dudley, but all the fish so far reported are all in that 1.5 to 2.5 pound class, except for Dickerson, 3 6-pounders. He might be really working on something. We've got some guys going out to try to track him down, some of our reporters on the water, and try to get a little bit more details about what he's actually doing.
That'll be cool. I really would like to hear what it is that he's doing and if it's playing into anything I said.
Hopefully he's using your roadmap to victory right now.
Hopefully he's using that road back to victory. You never can tell about these things, but like I said, he's got a big stringer early in the day, and it's only going to get better as the day goes on. The afternoon bite is key on this body of water at this time of year, so if he's got that kind of weight now, there's a possibility, you know, he's going to really show out when he steps up on the stage. And any of these guys, I mean, like I said, you hit the right spot in 15 minutes, you can do a lot of damage.
Now, you mentioned that key afternoon bite. John Cox, who we're watching live right now, talked a lot about that. His fish in Toho, the majority have come after 1 o'clock.
Right.
He's been getting those later fish, except aside from those fish he knew were there day one, he went right to and caught them off the beds.
Right.
he can bet that that fishing is going to be better, like you said, late afternoon. And so that's part of the strategy of him going and checking out something new down at Tiger today. He still knows he can get back to Toho later in the day, and if he doesn't have anything happen in Tiger, he can still hopefully salvage a day or have a little bit time to fish that water that's been so productive for him. He
could find one key fish, you know, in that afternoon deal, and change his whole stringer. So he's gonna come back to the sight fishing for sure, and that's just a typical thing in Florida. Early in the spawn, early in the year like this, it takes the water temperature and the sun, the angle of the sun, to get those fish to move up on the spawning beds, and kind of stay there. They're not far from them. I mean, they're roaming around in that area, and all it takes is whatever Mother Nature tells them for them to move up, and it's usually directly related to water temperature and sunlight. And in the afternoon is, you know, from 12:30 or 11 to 2 is the key time. You know, those fish will move up, and when they first move up on those spawning beds, they're pretty aggressive. They're easier to catch. I mean, they moved up there for a purpose, and they're defending their territory. So that makes them more aggressive and vulnerable to getting caught. So it's a great strategy for John. Like I said, he's a Florida angler, so he knows exactly what he needs to be doing, and timing is a key thing on this deal. So hopefully he'll make a run, you know, get some more fish right here where he's at, and potential's there for some big ones too. So there's really no telling what could happen. It's just going to play out as it plays out. You know, Scott's going to continue to catch fish and give seminars while he does it, which is, you know, makes our job easier. We can just sit and watch. And the other guys, you know, they look like they're struggling a little bit, but the same thing affects them too. I mean, when it's later in the day, even the spawning fish, I mean, even though they're not spawning fish, the water level, I mean, water temperature triggers these fish to bite. So
guys get to watch and put some sunscreen on. A little tip for you folks at home: if you want to look like a raccoon and an idiot at the same time, do this. Helps you get the ladies.
And Aaron's parents will be proud that he's doing some proper skincare while out on the lake. They're both watching this morning, and when talking to him last night, he gave a lot of credit to them. They have really supported him in his endeavors in the MMA rings, and then also now in his professional bass fishing career.
I wonder what he thinks is harder. At least you know who your opponent is when you step in an MMA ring. When you're fishing like this, you might know what he is, but you don't know where the hell he's at. He's going to come at you from a different angle every time, and you know, hopefully you get a shot at him. But
decision-making skills is about 95% of this game, particularly when you're in a spot like I'm in right now. I mean, sitting in second place, got a 10-pound lead over 10th, and you know, when you think you need 10 pounds just to go fishing tomorrow, do I run all the way to Kissimmee and waste an hour and a half and maybe catch them down there in the pads? Is the wind blowing down there hard, or I won't be able to throw a worm? It's just a lot that goes through your head, and it's hard to do that when I've caught 47 pounds of fish here in 2 days, and you know, I haven't fished here past 11:30 either day. First morning I was out of here by 10:30.
As he freezes up, he was actually touching up on some great decision making. This is what's going through the anglers' heads right now, and you know, he's a lot of math going on there. You know, he knows how much he needs to fish tomorrow, because to win this event, you need to fish the final day. But then also, he has so much confidence in that spot he's fishing right now. He had told me last night he wants to stay there all day, but you can see in his mind he's kind of fighting a little battle as the day's a little, you know, that wind starts to weigh on you a little bit. You're not catching as many fish as you'd like. You start looking at the other options. Do I kind of go for a layup real quick? Do I head down, spend a lot of time going down to Kissimmee, catching a quick limit, maybe try to come back here and feel a little bit more comfortable in this area?
It's hard to stop thinking things when you're not getting those bites. Man, your mind really gets to start wandering. The one thing that he needs to take into consideration is he's fishing the same conditions as everybody else, and they're probably, with the exception of Tyler Walcott, I mean, everybody's having a little bit of a tough time. If he stays in that area, all day long and doesn't catch them, you know, that happens. But he knows that they're there. Those fish are there, and at some point in the day, they're going to start to bite, and he's got to be there when that happens. Probably no other area in the lake that can do him any better than what he's doing right now. I mean, he's just got to take that into consideration. But it's a hard battle to fight. I mean, you second guess yourself all day long, and it's all about making the right decision. If you make the right, you know, the right move at the right time, you're a hero. If you make what you think is the right move at the right time and you don't catch them, then, you know, it's the same. It's just the total opposite. It's so hard. That's what makes this game so interesting. I mean, just like the line in the movie, we do it because it's hard. We don't do it because it's easy. And, you know, it's a challenge every day. Every cast is a challenge. And if you're doing the right thing at the right time, you know, you can't stop it. When it's your turn, you cannot stop it. I can tell you that for a fact.
And one guy that seems to be making the right decisions today, Dickerson, an update, I guess he started, he was over 18 pounds out of the lead to start the morning, and now he has already made up all that ground.
Made up some ground.
You know, of course, there's a lot of fishing, and these anglers don't have limits yet. You know, Cox, if he fills out a limit, can take that right back, but definitely a huge step in the right direction.
Yeah, he's, and he doesn't know it. You know, that's the beauty of this is he's, you know, he knows he's catching fish, but he doesn't know that the other guys aren't. You know, and here's the thing, if I'm catching them this good, I think everybody else is too. And, you know, that's probably weighing on him, but the fact that he's got them in the boat is a calming effect. You know, now you can just settle down and fish, and, you know, the chips will fall where they fall. And you just hope that everybody's not doing the same thing you're doing and being as successful. So, yeah, he's got it made. Maybe we should call him and tell him. Maybe we should drop a little bug in his ear, you know, see what it changes on him. He might run back to the weigh-in and order pizza. Sit there and eat pizza the rest of the day. Conditions like this. There you go.
Oh, no.
Meltdown point. That hurts. That really hurts when that happens. But it can also be, you can use it, you know, in a positive way that, you know, you got that kind of bite.
Oh, what timing, huh? Oh my God, how does it come off on a worm? That was a big one. That's what we need. Oh my God. You know, you fish all week, you don't lose one.
There's that replay.
There's a replay of him hooking that fish. And he's right. He's right. When you lose one on a plastic worm, you're thinking to yourself, what in the world did I just do? I mean, one hook, you know, hooking the fish, your percentage of catching that fish is way up, as opposed to a bunch of treble hooks where they can shake them loose easy. But that could be a key bite for him if he lets it work in his favor. I mean, knowing that he's had to slow down to get those bites. Get that kind of bite, that'll help him say, okay, they're still here. What do I need to do? And right there might be the key.
That'll mess you up right there, boy. Oh, how did it come off on a worm? Yeah, you know, I mean, it's not, it's blowing, but it's not blowing. If I can get my boat face this way, it's not really an issue. But it doesn't give me confidence. I mean, that hurts. That hurts a lot. I mean, if I'd have caught those two fish I had on, I'm fishing tomorrow. Ah, man. Sorry, Mom. At least people know I lose them now. When I come, you know, I got a camera on me. I come back and tell them I lost all these fish and probably think I'm full of crap. But now that they can see it.
We want to see you catch them, Aaron.
They're certified missed catches.
Yeah. Maybe you should put the mask back on.
Man.
You're scaring them with that beard.
I literally have not lost a fish all week. And you fish when it counts, and then you lose 2 good ones. Ah, man, I saw them both, too.
He's just got to settle down and use it to his advantage. That's all there is to it. I mean, he knows they're there. You just got to beat them out.
Rods. I mean, these ones, they're just the best. I mean, they really are. Everyone that's ever picked one up and that I know and played with them, they love them. So go check them out. Get yourself a couple. Man, that hurts. You know, this pepper grass, this is pretty much all you can throw in here. You just can't get a trap through it. I mean, you can if I can see them, but when you can't see the patches, you just half the time land right in them. It's ended up breaking your shoulder. Actually, seems like the wind's died down a little bit, quite a bit, actually.
You just made an interesting comment about the pepper grass. That's a different style of underwater vegetation.
Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Mom.
Different type of cover. It grows to the surface vertically, you know, from the bottom. And you can fish a worm down in it very effectively, but the other stuff with hooks on it, you can't. And a lot of times those fish will key on those individual patches of pepper grass because it's a different type of vegetation in that field of hydrilla. So, you know, it's almost like going from sand to rock going down a bank, or mud to sand. There's a transition zone there where that pepper grass meets the hydrilla. And if those fish are using that pepper grass, you can really pick them apart by fishing, just doing what he's doing. I mean, he's doing absolutely the right thing to get those bites. Now he needs to put them in the boat when they come in, you know, when he gets the opportunity. And he will as the day goes on. I mean, it's kind of obvious that they've stopped chasing. They've stopped, you know, hitting the moving stuff. They've gotten a little bit lethargic. And it's not so much a temperature change as it is possibly the pressure change of this front coming through, you know, causing them to do something a little bit different. So knowing that he's having to slow down is a big key to catching those fish now.
I want to give a big shout out to all my boys back home and all my friends. Man, I got so much support and love back home, and I don't really think the people back home are going to get a lot of credit. I think a lot of times the sponsors get all these plugs and all this and whatnot, but man, for me personally, all the friends and people that send me messages, that's what keeps me going, man. It's you know, I'm very fortunate to get to do what I do, and you know, it feels good when you got support back home and all over the country for that matter. It does not feel good when you jump one off like that. I understand jumping one on a trap, but man, you get a single hook like that, that just shouldn't happen.
Aaron, Britt there, throwing some love out to the West Coast. I can never get enough of that. A lot of great guys out there tuning in. It's very early morning out there, but here is Buddy Gross. This is a Ranger replay from one that didn't get away here.
There we go. Looks like Buddy has slowed down some too. Still throwing a swim bait.
Hit Jody's camera.
He's actually fishing downwind there. He's casting downwind. That's something
Absolutely.
That's an easier thing to accomplish these days now with you know, the power poles, the spot lock options. So many different ways now to fish the wind effectively.
Absolutely. I mean, you've got the tools now to make it easier for you to do what you're out there doing. And the way he's fishing, you know, downwind like that, it constantly keeps your line tight. You're in contact with your bait. You know what's going on with it the whole time. It's almost critical to be able to do that and make sure that you know what's going on with your bait, what you're coming in contact with. It makes it easier to feel the fish too. And the straighter your line is when you set the hook, the better opportunity you've got of catching that fish.
I'm sitting here in a little, kind of like a funnel. It's a little pocket in the grass line. This has been my best spot all week. They just kind of set up in here and catch a bait coming through. I just caught one just a second ago on a swim bait, Scottsboro tackle swim bait. I seen one run a manna up to the top. First cast I caught it. It's just, you may catch 4 when you come through here, and you may catch 1, you may catch none. I just have to hit it a bunch during the day. Right now I just broke out a jerkbait. I'm trying to trick them. Slow bite this morning. I figured the wind was going to help us, but it seems to slow mine down, or I've caught them all, one or two.
There's no way he's caught them all. There's just too many fish in that area that he's fishing, so he might think he has. But again, one of the key things he just mentioned was the funnel.
This thing, they just kind of sit behind it and ambush. Perfect spot.
Again, that clear path, you know, to where they're going. And
they're just being stubborn.
The wind helps push bait through that area too. And those fish will sit there and move in and out of there all day long. Every time you make a pass through it, if you catch a fish, you're doing pretty well. A lot of times it takes just going through there, catching one, moving on, and then coming back to be effective. Let them settle down, because once you catch one, you've stirred that school up.
Give me a limit anyway. I've caught the 2 smallest fish I've caught out of it all week today. It's offshore, big hydrilla patch, but right back there's where they're all bedding. I've been catching post-spawn and pre-spawn, but I've kind of beat up on it this week.
You mentioned that Scottsboro tackle swim bait. That's one of those baits that he said he likes to pull out when he gets in super clear water conditions.
Back and forth between a black and blue swim jig with a zoom trailer and a white swim jig with a swim bait trailer. And then I go to my swim bait whenever I get lined up on a good bite or a good line. The swim bait catching the bigger ones.
Really rotating through a lot of baits right there.
And that's what you have to do when you've got an area like that, a specific area. You can't keep throwing the same thing and expecting to catch them.
I got a limit off of the other day. I'm going to see if I can catch a limit and get the pressure off of them anyway.
Letting it rest sometimes is the key. If you just mentioned running up the lake, fish a different spot, when he comes back, he'll probably catch a fish in that same spot.
It's been all about angles too. First day I caught him, I had to throw up north. Yesterday they wouldn't bite up north. I had to catch them from the north on to the south. And today it seems to be at an angle. So I mean, they're just setting up different, I guess, based on which way the wind's blowing. The wind's creating current into this pocket and it's washing all the bait that's out there. We got all these isolated clumps have got tons of brim around them. So they get funneled up in it. On a calm day, you throw towards a clump and all you see is brim moving. Water's been super clean too. This wind's got a little bit of settlement stirred up. It's not dirty by no means. It's just got some what y'all call grains in it. It's not as quite as clear as it has been. If it continues to grain up, I think I can go on the backside of this hard line right here, and I think you can go on the backside of the hard line though and get in a little better water. It's hard to give up on what this thing's produced.
Again, knowing what's in that area, you know, like he said, it's hard to give up on it. I don't blame him a bit. I mean, when you know that they're using that area, you have to, and you caught so many fish out of it, you have to tell yourself that they're still there. So you just got to figure out or wait them out. And
sure. Well, starting the morning in 28th place and now unofficially in 2nd place, Tommy Dickerson. We have a live video or live feed right now. That's him. He just got mic'd up. We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be hanging out with Tommy and seeing what he's doing to catch this huge stringer of bass so far, and even have a look back at some of the fish he caught earlier today. Don't go anywhere. More coverage on Lake Toho, brought to you by Ranger Boats, when we come back.
This is the angle that's been the best for me right here. I've caught both the fish that's in the boat right now at this angle, which you'd think I'd need to be bringing it to me, but they liked it, so.
All right, they're on break right now.
We're fixing to go up there and see if we can catch a limit. Every time I come back, it catches one, though, it'd be good. Usually it's 3 or 4 of them, though. It's onesie, twosies hurting my feelings. Go bathroom right here. My pants about fell off. Yeah, nobody want to see that. Yeah, I thought you heard me, I'm sorry. I said that we're gonna get out of here after I do the bath.
Oh, I didn't get it. I just heard I go to the bathroom.
Here on Lake Toho, there is our unofficial leaderboard. John Cox starting to fill out that limit here. You know, nothing to write home about, but once again, when you're in the lead, you definitely don't want to just let everyone pass you by.
Every fish counts at the end of the day, and catching that 5, what it does for you is it changes your mindset. Okay, now I've got 5 in the box. What can I do to improve on that? And John knows what he's going to do to improve on it. He's just waiting for the time to do it.
Yep, and when you're leading the tournament, you don't want to give it away, but also when you're at the bottom of the field, you want to make some moves, and that's exactly what number 2 did. Tommy Dickerson moved from 28th to 2nd place unofficially. And then there's the cut line there. That the top 10 you just saw, that's where all these guys want to make it to by the end of today, because only 10 anglers are going to move on to fish tomorrow, the 4th and final day, and that shot it up to $125,000.
Absolutely, and when you start the day in the 30 cut, you're already relaxed because you're fishing a free day, basically. You're getting paid. So what do you have to lose? Maybe you take a chance. Maybe Tommy was so far back, you know, that he said, hey, I caught a few fish here in practice, let me go try it. And all of a sudden that spot turns on. Or maybe he knew about them the whole time, went to them, and the big fish just started to bite. So many things have changed between yesterday and today that it's making this tournament completely different, a completely different deal. And you have to just, you know, roll with what you got in front of you. And, you know, maybe that's what Tommy did. I'm curious to see what section of the water he's on and where he's at. So when we go to him, we get that camera rolling on him, it'll be cool to watch what's going on.
And there is our look at John Cox. Led day 1, led day 2, and now is the current leader in day 3.
He's moved up a little tighter to the hard line right there. That's, you know, basically the bank. And you can see the wind's not affecting that at all. But that water in that lake is not clean enough to sight fish. So he's still throwing the moving baits, trying to get some, you know, reaction bites from feeding fish, and, you know, just being real thorough in that area. He knows he's got 4. He's going to catch his 5th fish here. It's just a matter of time when he does it. Be kind of curious to see if he decides to pick up a flipping stick, if there's enough water on that edge to flip those little places, you know, the little tight cover places, and get a bite. Sometimes those bigger fish will tuck right up underneath there and just in less than a foot of water, and you could drop a bait in front of him real quick and surprise him. You see poke his rod down just then, that's his depth finder. He's checking the bottom for, you know, if it's hard or soft and how deep it actually is. Didn't look like it was very deep, so he probably will not pull out a flipping stick and get up there.
A long time ago, this bottom was pretty nasty over here. It had a lot of muck. And I guess after one of the storms or whatever, it really, like almost reset it and uprooted a lot of the muck and stuff and pushed it up against the bank. Now it's nice and sandy over here.
That's an interesting point, because he knows he's in, you know, when you got a sand bottom, there's a possibility of it being a spawning area again. He's fishing around where those fish are trying to set up.
Starting to warm up.
As we see more jerseys and less jackets, that may be a sign of things starting to heat up, not only on the water, but hopefully for the fishing as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, this is the time of day when everything starts to change, starts getting, you know, you're coming up on 10 o'clock there, and water's going to start to warm up as the angle of the sun changes. I really love that isolated cover that he's coming up on right there. I mean, those are just obvious targets for fish to be around. You just got to figure out, you know, make several casts around it. Hopefully, every time I see that stuff, I get excited, because I know there's a possibility of a big one being around there.
Now we teased this before the break. When he has kind of a spotty cell service you're seeing there, but now our first live look at Tommy Dickerson. And what a day he is having so far as you look at those fish in the live well right there, that graphic, 3 6-pounders.
And you got to take that with a grain of salt because that's just a best guess. You know, I mean, they might be 6.5, they might be 5.5. So you've got some room to play with, but either way, he's working on a great stringer.
Basically fishing a flat. Okay.
He's throwing a moving bait here, you know, probably a lipless of some kind. When he says he's on a flat, there's more than likely some scattered hydrilla.
Basically fishing offshore today, adjacent to a huge spawning flat. Fish are coming and going, they're staging in on basically an inside grass line is what I would call it. This whole bay in here is around 5 or 6 foot deep. And for some reason, the grass in this one particular area is kind of more scattered than it is in the rest of the place. Just a great touchy place right here, you know, 100 yards from where they're going to flow there on in, and kind of come and go into play. So it has been really good the last 2 days of the tournament because there was no wind. Really hard to get a bite. You get a lemon in the morning, the first hour, and then you just couldn't even get another bite throughout the day. When the wind, I knew the wind was going to blow today. I kind of expected a way better day because during practice I just pulled up here and I only caught 3 and cut my hooks off, but it was just every cast. So, one's in the boat. We've lost one good one. And I'm at the little lull right now. I know yesterday around noon, it's kind of they started eating again really well.
We're having a little bit of trouble with his feed, but he basically says the wind has helped him. I mean, he's one of the few anglers that is fishing open water that, you know, like I said earlier, there's a chance that it'll increase their possibility of catching fish just because it's not slick. And he already said that first thing in the morning he could catch a limit. They weren't very big and then it would die. Now he's on up into the day catching fish consistently through the day, and he's got to really credit that to the wave action on the water, you know, making it a little bit tougher for those fish to discern what they're looking at and attack it. When it's flat and calm, they can see everything, including the hooks moving on those baits, and they know it's not natural. Now you've got a little bit of a disadvantage for the fish in the fact that they can't see as well and are going to react to the bait a little bit better. So he's happy he's there and doing what he's doing, I guarantee it. I bet he was probably surprised at the size of some of the fish he was catching, that he's been around all week long, and now they're finally, you know, opportunity to catch them, which is you know, what you live for every day when you're on the water.
Now let's take a look back at some of those fish that contributed to this big bag he's working on day 3 here. And this is from our Marshall video.
Good job.
How do you like that, Pete?
That's a nice one there. I mean, when you... Oh.
Good job.
That was a good job. Nice healthy fish there. I mean, you can see they got a little bit of belly on them. When they're like that, those are pre-spawn fish. You see that one was kind of skinny, so that might have either been a male or a post-spawn fish. You never know, but he's right there. You know, he's got a good mix of both going on, and you can't ask for better than that when they're coming and going and you get in those little areas. I'm sure, again, there's another little funnel or a little pathway through the grass there that those fish are using, and he's found that area and taking advantage of it.
On that inside grass line.
It kind of looks from the background that he's down in Kissimmee somewhere. Oh, he is in Toho? Okay. Okay, I kind of see in the background what we're looking at. Up there ahead of him is an area, used to be called South Steer Beach, I believe, just below Red's Fish Camp on the east shore of the lake. And into his right there is a huge bay spawning area, spawning flat. And out there where he's at, there's where those fish will stage up waiting to come into that area. Look at that man pick up that Carolina rig and lob it out there. He's trying to win my heart. My favorite technique. And if you can find a bare spot in that grass where they're coming through and there might be a little bit of shell on the bottom, that Carolina rig can be so effective at catching those fish when they slow down, when the bite slows down. So, you know, good for him for mixing it up. And like I say, he's shooting from the hip right now because he's got his stringer. He's made his move. Now all he's going to do is add, and so he's fishing from a relaxed position, and that's going to help him the rest of the day. It's so early. He's got so much time. There's no telling what can happen with him out there today.
Obviously, we're always at the mercy of our cell coverage out on the water, and the wind seems to be interfering with that just a bit today. But really happy that we got to touch base with Tommy Dickerson. You know, starting the morning in 28th place. Like you said, nothing really to lose. He made that cut. Not much for him behind him. And so there was one way to move. That wind definitely is picking up the bite for him, throwing the lipless, but also going to that Carolina rig like you were talking about. I think we're going to keep seeing good things out of him throughout this day.
I hope so. I mean, it's you know, you like to root for guys like this that, you know, they're fishing relaxed. You know, he's out there having a good time, and now he's going to get rewarded for it. So good for him. I mean, that's what you know, a dream tournament. You know, to make that move from that far back up is impressive.
Sure. And I'm watching some of these comments come through on social media as well. People watching not only from all over the country, but all over the world, which we're going to touch up on how FLW has gone international, bringing in anglers from you know, different parts of the earth to fish the Costa Championship last year. So we'll have a cool little piece on that a little bit later. Also, some of the comments, a lot of guys in cold weather up north, loving watching the Florida fishing. The next best thing to actually fishing yourself is watching fishing on TV and getting to see people compete for up to $125,000.
You're sitting in the back of the boat right now. I mean, the way this camera's set up, the way we've got this live feed coming to you, you're there. And you're warm, you know. We're sitting here in the studio in Kentucky, and it's not warm outside. When I came up here yesterday, it was a little bit of a shock. I asked the lady at the front desk of the hotel to mess with the thermostat and see if she could get a change outside. She just kind of looked at me like I was stupid. So, yeah, it's cold up here and it's warm down there, and even though it's cooler, it's all relative. So, yeah, I feel for the guys up here that have to endure this and until it warms up. But hey, warm weather's coming, guys. Hang in there.
Now we are back on our leader, looking for his 5th fish.
Still throwing that black chatterbait.
And that record-setting 31-pound bag on day one has really given him momentum and carried him in the lead throughout now 2 and about almost half a days of fishing.
Yeah, he's getting more relaxed as the day goes on. I mean, I'm sure he's still a little bit nervous, but knowing John, he's a cool character. He really doesn't let things get to him. He's all business when it comes to fishing, and he's going to be out there. He's going to make it happen. It's just a matter of time. You know, if he might, tomorrow might be his big day. You know, he hangs on today and stays in that top 3 position. He's got a shot at winning it without question. I mean, tomorrow, and it's a smart thing letting that area up north in Toho rest today, getting away from those fish. Tomorrow could be a whole different day for him. So we just have to kind of wait and see on that, what the conditions play out to be. But he's definitely making a move today to just kind of be comfortable and put fish in the boat, and in a place where it could happen, where he could get a big bite in any cast.
Pete, you went a little bit into this, but you know, with so much experience, you know, dating back to 1982 when you started on here in Toho, and you finished 5th in that event?
5th in my first national tournament, and I thought to myself, yeah, this might be fun to do. You know, make a little bit of money. Of course, back then the entry fee was only $300, and I think for 5th place I ended up winning like $5,000. So for a 22-year-old kid, that was a pretty good lick, and you know, and was that close to winning. Just you know, again, you lose a fish, you catch a fish. The potential was there to win that tournament, and just kind of set me on my path, which was a long one. It took a long time. I think it was 8 or 9 years before I got another check in a national event after that. So it wasn't quite as easy as I thought it was going to be. But, you know, you learn throughout the whole process, and if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. You know, you do what you can do, keep yourself going, try and get a few sponsors along the way. And it was a little easier back in those days. I mean, there weren't as many people trying to do the same thing, so.
They are mezzling me. Oh, we can go back. They're just staying out in the middle. They're not going in these pads for some reason.
Something that's keeping them out there in that open water.
I know, I want them to be in them pads so bad. Just those females chasing the bluegills away from their beds. But I mean, the couple we've seen blow up, they've been great big ones. So maybe we can get lucky and get one to bite. Then all we'll have to do is get one more like that. This whole week's been all about getting 2 big ones, and so that's pretty much what we're fishing for, is trying to get 2 big bites today.
He's going to essentially a topwater, it looks like maybe even a frog, like a horny toad or a cane toad or something. I don't know which one he likes to use, but trying to get one of those fish to react on the surface. you know, what we're seeing here is his first 2-day stringers. Obviously 31 was huge, record-setting stringer on the first day. 17 is nothing shabby, as you know, as a follow-up. And again, those were all fish he more than likely was looking at and trying to get that difference maker bite. And we've seen a lot of stringers come across the stage this week that were, you know, one big fish in the bag with 3 or 4 smaller ones. That's not typical, you know, unusual for this body of water this time of year. And the difference maker is having those 2 fish, having that second big fish in that bag, or getting in the right place and catching a bunch of 4-pounders. You know, 20 pounds adds up a bunch of different ways. And when you're talking about catching 18 to 20 pounds a day on this body of water, that's going to keep you in the top 20 for sure on the first 2 days. And then on the last day, you know, or the third day, you want to move forward. You want to make that move like Tommy Dickerson's doing, and either get farther ahead of the competition or move up towards the top. And I'm kind of really surprised at how fast John's moving, to be honest with you. I would have expected him to slow down a little bit more with his presentation, but hey, he's the one out there he's the one in first place, so who am I to question what his techniques are? I mean, he's out there, and all we're doing is talking about it. So he's doing the right stuff. He made a point earlier, too, talking about those big fish out there chasing brim in open water, whether they might be on a bed in that open sand out there in the middle, or they're just roaming around in packs, getting ready to set up on beds. You know, it's not unusual for them to bed on a clean bottom, but when they've got so much visible cover, so much of those pad roots and grass and reeds and all that stuff right there to get around, they generally want to be around something on the bottom when they make a bed. And it can be one single reed a lot of times, but like I said earlier, those fish will roam around in little packs in that spawning area, 3 or 4 fish at a time. And they just kind of swim. They just kind of mosey around. So there's really no telling where you'll run into them.
A little bit, but better than losing fish, man. I got a crankbait somewhere. I probably threw down there. Okay.
Now we're back over to our big mover right now, Tommy Dickerson.
We're gonna go back to a rattle trap and cover a little more water. Like I said, the locals have eased up a little bit on me. Had a couple of guys really didn't want to leave this morning. Well, I can't get my rattle trap out.
I like
We're
his
basically
tackle
just
box
trying
there.
a few different colors to see if we can. To me, every fish is a little bit different. Some like brown rattle traps, some likes chrome, some likes different colors. So we're basically just trying to switch up crankbaits and rattle traps to see if we could trigger a strike from something different than we've been.
Locked up on us there, but again, when you're fishing the same area over and over again, it's a good thing to make a different presentation or put on a different bait, run back through there, because, you know, I think those fish, especially in that lake, they get so tone deaf to the lipless baits. They've heard them day after day after day going over the top of them, and sometimes it just takes a simple variation, a slight difference in vibration and noise to get those bites where it's different from what they've already heard. Wind's definitely blowing out of the northeast, and where he's at, he's protected. I mean, that
Like I said,
pocket.
different retrieves every day seems to be a different retrieve. Some days fast, some days slow, some days they want it yo-yo, and it seems like just every day's been different, never the same. So basically just figuring out what they want for that day or that hour. Normally grass fishing is a reaction bite with a rattle trap. And you basically just go pretty fast with it and they kind of triggers a strike. It's like a shad trying to get away.
And there in the background is my favorite method of propulsion across the water, the airboat. You're 300 yards away from that guy and we can hear him here. You know, it's pretty loud. But they run those boat tours all up and down that lake, and people come from everywhere to go see an alligator or a snake or a bird. They pay like 40 bucks a person.
Fishing is a big, huge
to ride
flat
those
out
things.
here. Like I said, the grass is, the whole thing is just matted grass. Like I said, just a couple of places are a little bit thinner than the other. So in those places, you never know where they're going to be. They could be anywhere around the boat. It's not like they're in one spot.
And where he's at is literally, I can't even imagine how many acres of grass that he's fishing right there close by, and he's isolated one small area. You know, I call it basically when...
I came back at 1 o'clock and there was no wind. And all of a sudden I was trying to throw a Carolina rig, maybe just trying to get another bite. The wind came up just for, 5 minutes. I picked up that rattle trap and I caught a 6-pounder. And the wind laid down as soon as I caught it, and never caught another one for 2 hours. So, with this wind today, like I said, they're going to feed. We're just going to have to kind of sit it out and wait to see when they feed. I have one other spot, but it's an hour away, so we're not going to go. We're going to grind it out right here and see what happens today. We need one big one and we'll be good.
He just doesn't know how good he'll be.
With me, man.
But he said it right there, there's no need to leave.
Oh yeah, we got 5. We have 3 close to 6 pounds and 1 3-pounder and 1 2-pounder. We're doing good so far. Like I said, if I wouldn't have lost that one, but throwing a rattle trap with treble hooks, you're not going to get all of them in the boat. This ain't going to happen. We're going to venture around. Everybody's kind of eased up. We're going to move around a little bit.
And being a Saturday on that lake, there's no telling how many local tournaments are going on, you know, with other people out on the water competing for the same fish. I mean, the locals know exactly where they've been catching fish for, you know, a while, so they're going to go back to those same places, and it just happens to be where you're at. You just have to deal with that. I mean, it's one of those things that's the X factor in tournament fishing.
We got the anglers are current first and second, but both anglers, these two anglers couldn't have started the morning differently.
Yeah.
John Cox was our current leader starting the morning and still is, but Tommy Dickerson started the morning in 28th place, you know, barely made the top 30 cut and has made you know, good use of his time so far this morning with almost 23 pounds. This is unofficial weights, but we're estimating he has 3 fish around 6 pounds each in his live well right now. So 2 fish that are about 2 pounds and 3 pounds. And so he's got some room to even work on that limit. And the way he's catching fish, the quality of it, probably more big ones in there.
There's no question. And if they're not where he's at right now, they'll show up. I mean, it's obvious that the fish congregate in that area before they go in or out further, and he's found the middle ground there that you know, that they're using, and he's in the catbird seat right now. It's just a matter of another group of fish move through when he's making that right cast. And John, you know, John's just covering some water. He's staying pretty much in that same flat. He knows that those fish are there and they're coming to that spot, so he's just waiting on them to.
I thought I had a big one because I was pulling him sideways. He never would jump, so I didn't know what I had.
really is interesting to see the contrast in fishing styles on this body of water. First 2 days, you got guys catching them sight fishing, and you still got guys catching them out in the open hydrilla. It just tells you how many different fish, how many different stages of fish are in right now, and moving in and out to those spawning areas. And it's just kind of cool that you can have a tournament where so many different things go on at the same time. Helps spread the anglers out quite a bit, you know, gives everybody an opportunity to fish without being too crowded, and it's a good thing. That's what the hydrilla in these lakes will do for you. It just gives you so many more options. There's Tommy just lost a fish.
Snapped it and he ate it. They're just not very aggressive.
I'd like to see Tommy pick up that Florida swim bait and throw it out there and see what happens. Because those fish are there, and if they want to move in bait, that ultra-vibe speed worm is a little bit more subtle presentation. It would be something to see him pick that up and see if it went to work for him or not. It's kind of the only thing missing for John where he's at in Tiger. There's no hydrilla in that lake. And it's good and it's bad because it positions them where you know they should be, you know, on the visible targets when they move into that stuff. But it makes it hard to fish that open water knowing that there's really nothing for them to be around. You just got to get it in front of them at the time that, you know, you meet up with a school of fish or a little group of fish and catch them as they're starting to move and feed. Has there been any movement on the rest of the top five? Has Scott done anything recently?
There's some fish catches. Nothing too much sticks out right now.
They're just really scattered. When you go, you hit one of those clumps. That's where they're at. They're just sitting in those clumps. So you never know where they're at. They're kind of scattered. Some of them are 10 foot apart, and some of them are 100 foot apart. But it seems to trigger a strike when you go over them and either pop it out of them or throw that Carolina rig over and kind of go on the top of it. And they kind of want that too. One clump of grass right there is holding that fish.
Now there's two anglers near the top that have now filled out some small limits, Josh Douglas and Casey Scanlon. They're part of a group that I've really wanted to watch here. Actually, starting the morning, number 6, Josh Douglas, then 7th was Casey Scanlon, and then 8th, Tyler Wilcott. All three of them fishing the same area, really, really close to each other down in Kissimmee. And their limits, Douglas and Wilcott's were very consistent, 21-7, then 20-13, and then Wilcott 18-8, 20-13. They're around a lot of quality fish down there where we've seen a lot of the field have one big day, one smaller day. These guys have really found some
more consistent.
Yeah, found some consistent fish. And then Scanlon also fishing that area, pulled out 28 pounds on day 2.
Wow.
So there's an area that's really got some quality fish, and seeing Scanlon and Douglas already fill out their limits this morning could be a good sign. And they've really consistently moved up the leaderboard each day, and maybe more of the same from them.
Absolutely. Absolutely, they could. Trying to see if John's got a fish on.
Been so good.
Looks like it. It looks like a pretty good one, whatever it is.
I live on Sam Raven Reservoir, so I was very fortunate to be able to fish.
Apparently, it wasn't a bass.
Nope, I was able to get away.
Yeah, I think
he might have, you know, backhooked something, a gar or catfish or something like that, because he wasn't overly excited about losing it.
But I practiced too long. I practiced for almost a month, and the water come up 12 foot in that month. So every time I found them, the next day I'd have to find them again. They kept moving, kept moving. Time the tournament come, I done had too many places that I caught them, so it's kind of made it a little difficult.
Rayburn itself, he's talking about Rayburn and all the fish there. Again, that's another one of those lakes that if the hydrilla wasn't there, the population wouldn't be where it's at today. So hydrilla is a good thing in moderation, and just need to get kind of a handle on.
Some of these fish you could tell spawned out, and some of them haven't. So it's definitely a staging area. I just know Florida, like I said, when that wind blows out of the north.
Kind of locked up there, but like I was getting ready to say, we just kind of need to get a handle on this spraying thing. The FWC Board of Commissioners right now has put a halt to the spraying of aquatic vegetation in the state until they can get an idea of what's going on, what the effect of the spraying is doing to the lakes. And right now you've got a perfect case study in Okeechobee with no vegetation, and Toho just like it is with lots of vegetation, and the difference in the amount of fish being caught. Like I say, it's just a habitat issue. And the more habitat you have, the more fish can live in it. And you take a box of baby chickens and throw them out in the middle of the desert, they're not going to survive very long. And it's the same thing when there's no vegetation, no place for those fish to live. The small fish, the fry, the hatch has, their chance of survival is quite a bit less because they're exposed to predation. And predation at that age, I mean, bluegill, shiners, carp, everything that swims eats the hatch from that year. And there might be billions of them that get hatched, but the survival rate is greatly decreased due to the lack of vegetation, lack of places for those fish to hide. So it's critical that we understand what's going on with the grasses in these lakes and how to manage them properly. You know, if you just wholesale go out there and kill it, it dies, goes to the bottom, it creates peat basically, or creates area for more vegetation to grow from. So it's a vicious cycle. You're killing it and you're growing it, and you're killing it and you're growing it. And we need to find out why it's growing and where all those nutrients are coming from to make it grow. A lot of it is runoff from the surrounding areas of these lakes. Like I said, Shingle Creek runs into Toho at the very north end, starts up in Orlando. So everything that pesticides, fertilizer, everything that goes into that water system trickles down into Lake Toho and promotes the growth of vegetation. And then we spray it and kill it, and we create more soft bottom for the vegetation to come back out of. So we kind of need to look at it as here we start at the beginning and figure out why we're growing it instead of just killing it and adding it and killing it and adding it. That stuff that they use is, for the lack of better terms, Agent Orange. You know, that they use, it's a defoliant, and it can't be good. It cannot be good for the water system. So the state has taken a step back and they're looking into it, and I applaud them for that. I'm so proud that they at least are trying to get a handle on what's going on, and I hope they continue this, you know, research and figure out a different cause and effect for what we're looking at in the state.
Sure. And this isn't just a Florida issue as well. The rest of the country deals with the same thing, all the way out west to California. And so the rest of the country will be watching. It's great to see Florida acknowledging this, trying to learn a little bit more about it. And the rest of the states, I'm sure, will be taking notes and seeing how this is handled and seeing if they can't adapt as well.
Absolutely. they're actually having open meetings throughout the state, different locations in the state, and you can go to the FWC website and look that up. And if you have an opinion, you need to go to that meeting. You get an opportunity to talk with these people and voice your opinion. I mean, they're intelligent people and they're willing to listen. So the more support we have to curtail this spraying, which is just, it's not even the state that's doing it. That spraying is contracted out by the state, and the people that are doing the spraying, basically, they have a certain amount of chemical to use, and they use it, whether they are using it properly or not. And again, that's one of those deals. We need to get a handle on it. So if you have an opportunity to go to some of these meetings and voice your opinion, please do it. I mean, they're literally all over the state for the next couple of months. They're going to have these meetings, and your opinion matters. So kind of get on board with that, and well, let's keep this fishing the way it is. I mean, these fisheries it's obvious where it's good and where it's bad. I mean, even Lake Guntersville fought this battle for years. I can remember when Guntersville was at its prime, and then all of a sudden they killed every blade of grass in it, and it was like the Dead Sea. You couldn't hardly catch a fish. And then the grass comes back and the fish come back with it. So there's an obvious correlation to the amount of habitat and what good the weeds that some people don't like. I mean, I agree. You have recreational days that people that want to use the water along these rivers and lakes for recreational boating, and the weeds kind of keep that from happening in a lot of situations. But there's got to be a happy medium somewhere, and we can't just wholesale kill everything that's out there. Enough of that. Let's talk about fishing. I mean, John Cox is sticking with it, man.
It's not working out. I think we're going to have to. There's some big fish moving, but not getting any bites.
Any cast where he's at could make his day just turn completely around.
And how about that for some fishy looking water in front of him right now?
That's gorgeous water right there. I mean,
got a little bit of everything scattered in there.
Absolutely.
Including some little openings.
Where he was at was as far in as you could go. He was going, he was trying to get ahead of the fish. He's going where they're coming to him, and now he's working his way further out where they're coming from. So maybe he'll run into some on his move out there. I guarantee that little path through those lily pads right there, he's gonna make a few casts right in there, because it's a natural little roadway, a little opening for him to come through. And not all the fish in that lake spawn at the same time. A lot of those females will come in and drop some eggs on a bed, and then they'll move off, and that same female will come back in on the next moon phase or whenever the mood strikes her and drop some more eggs. They don't do it all at one time in the state. The spawn starts in December in a lot of places. In South Florida, it starts as early as November, sometimes around Thanksgiving on Lake Okeechobee and some of the canals. But the spawn will start for essentially in December in the state, and it'll continue on through the end of May sometimes. Those fish will spawn 3 or 4 different times in the spawn cycle, and it's just a neat deal. Other parts of the country, when the spawn happens, it usually happens in one period and is over really quick, and ours just kind of continues on and on for months, 2 or 3 months, and it really helps the population.
Well, we've got fish coming, going, all stages of the cycle right now, and I think a lot of people agree that as we progress throughout this day, the fishing's only going to get better. Mm-hmm. So as we come on another break, we're going to leave you with this little replay from Scott Martin. This is a fish he just caught a little short time ago. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more live coverage on Lake Toho for our second stop of the 2019 FLW Tour presented by Ranger Boats.
Well, I guess it's good I got that off my mind.
It's about eliminating
Yeah.
things, isn't it?
Yep.
You going all the way back to Toho?
Yep.
Holy cow.
But that's obnoxious. Missed one. I don't know. Might not have been a bite.
Welcome back to FLW Live here on Lake Toho. It's day 3, and you want to be in this top 10 right here. Come weigh in today because only the 10 are moving on to fish tomorrow, the 4th and final day, and shot at that big $125,000 purse. So far, John Cox has remained in the lead so far today, just with a slow start. Only 4 fish in the live well right now, but luckily he had enough lead that's keeping him up there. But the big mover, obviously, Tommy Dickerson moving from 28th all the way up to 2nd place. Some other guys here trying to make the top 10 right now. Terry Bolton, another strong finish no matter where he ends up today. Our champion from the last event at Sam Rayburn, and now in the hunt to try to make that top 10 cut and fish another day 4.
Yeah, all the guys, obviously it's easy to make a move if you get that one good bite. And there's a lot of guys that are in those areas where those big fish live, and all they have to do is connect. So anything can happen in the next couple hours to change those standings and really shuffle them around a lot. I talked with my roommate Daryl Davis, who had a good day yesterday, and good first day, lost a key fish. Good second day, lost a key fish. Hopefully today, he'll connect and get one of those better bites in the boat and move him up into the top 10. I'm looking forward to him trying to do that.
And
we'll kind of recap
just like that, we're going to go with some replays. Yes, here is some action that we've had throughout the day so far from some of our top anglers. Scott Martin right there.
That's his first fish of the morning, and it's a nice one. That's the kind of day you want to start with right there.
And he had changed his morning. He started out both mornings up in Toho. This morning's day 3 started out down in Kissimmee and immediately paid off with that fish right there.
Yeah, and here we got Buddy Gross is catching one of his fish out of that key spot he's been fishing all week long. He's, it's really slowed down for him quite a bit, and he's doing everything he can do to get some bites, and we're waiting to see what he's going to do. He talked about making a move possibly and then coming back, so he'll be doing all right.
And he's currently got 2 fish. Aaron Britt has fallen down to 7th place. He started the morning in 2nd.
There he's hooked up with a fish, comes off on the way to the boat, and that really breaks your mood. You can see it and hear it the way he's talking and acting. He's second guessing himself. There's Mr. Setzer with a fish on, landing it, a small one, a little jerkbait fish that he caught earlier in the day. And there's John Cox, doing what John Cox does, only smaller. For now. He'll catch up. I have no doubt in my mind. He might be a slower day, but he'll catch up.
And one thing that all these anglers mentioned last night when talking to him was that they felt like there was going to be a change today. Things were going to be different. That wind rolling in. They knew these finicky Florida fish were going to do what they do best, and that's change the pattern. Do something different when any kind of weather changes. And so all these anglers trying to make those adjustments, and none better at it than Scott Martin right here, who we're having a live look on.
Yeah, we've tuned in on Scott, and he looks like he's in the same area doing the same thing, and just enough fish there, getting enough bites to keep him there. He knows that potential for a big bite is there. Got 3 in the well. That first one was a 4-pounder, so like I say, that really helps. Before it's all said and done.
Adjustment. I went over to a different area. Just caught a nice 3-pounder. Finished up my limit. I've got to get rid of 3 of them for sure if I want to survive for tomorrow. But I've got a limit, and you're fishing in Florida. You want to put yourself around the biggest opportunity for 7 to 9 pound fish, and that's in this area right now that I'm in. I got another area I might run to in a little bit. So really now I'm just focusing on trying to get 1 or 2 or 3 of those big bites.
We're a little bit behind on the updates from the marshals, according to Scott's update thing there that shows what he's got. But he just said he has a limit, and finished out with a nice 3-pounder, and he's made a move into another area that's got a lot of potential, and he's looking at getting that big bite.
You can't throw a lipless crankbait in this very good, so I'm swimming that worm real slow.
The Florida swim bait.
And to that point, But 2 fish, we had him in 5th place. So he said he just filled out his limit with a quality fish for his 5th fish. So that really may move him up the leaderboard quite a bit.
Yeah, he could be up there in that, top 3 range very easily right now. And when he gets that one bite, look out. He's absolutely doing the right thing in the right areas. I mean, Scott's not going to keep himself out of the high traffic zones where the fish are the high traffic, not the anglers. He's going to be where the fish are at. And that little swimming worm deal, that's money here in this state. I mean, you can catch them on that all year long, and you can catch big ones. And, he's gonna run into the right one here shortly.
You got to really be paying attention. That's one of the reasons braid's good on this too, is when they bite this worm, when you're swimming it like this, it's just like a little bluegill peck. It's like tick, tick, tick. And you're hitting a lot of grass and bouncing in little pad stems. So you got to be able to know which one is a bass and which one is just a grass. And that braid is real sensitive, a good sensitive rod too. I'm really paying attention to what this worm's doing. You got him, Brian? You got him?
Brian,
I got a limit, but it doesn't weigh a lot.
In the background.
Got Brian Thrift over there.
Kind of amazing how these top guys always find themselves in the same area, end up sharing a little bit of water. Most of the time without any conflict, and that's really, kind of the way I like to fish, and have always fished in the past. So I'm glad to see that still kind of living on.
Yeah, I did.
Brian Thrift moving a little slower than he usually does out there. Was moving around the boat early yesterday and stepped on the net.
Ooh.
Rolled his ankle, and there was some pictures on social media. It is swelled up, looking very gnarly, and so he's a little less nimble today.
A little bit hobbled, I would say, yeah. Maybe that'll help him. Sometimes slowing down can be a good thing. Kind of hard to tell exactly where they're at with that background, but it's somewhere along that east shore of Lake Kissimmee, a little bit further down than from North Cove. Doesn't look like it's the Jack Slough area, but it might be close.
Throw a little Slim Shake. There's a little tree right there. Take that. That's a Guggen Slim Shake, Guggen bait Slim Shake. Little 1/4 ounce. Bait works real good when you're pitching around reeds, around the arrowheads.
Now, if he catches one on that right now, are you going to go buy a pack? A lot going on these screens right now. There's a lot of guys fishing. Some guys fishing close together, some guys by themselves.
I've got probably probably I got about 11 pounds, 11, 12 pounds, something like that.
11, 12 pounds on a day like
today.
today.
Keeper. It's probably just a 1 pounder.
It is not bad.
A couple more that are just right at 2. Got a 3 and a 4.
You know, not knowing what the leaders have and the guys that are around you have, we have the advantage of knowing that, and he's in pretty good shape with that stringer right now.
That little stick that I'm throwing at right there, I missed a fish on it for some reason. I don't know why I didn't get him. He might have been little. But that's the kind of stuff that these fish will spawn on. Any hard piece of cover like that's a tree branch or something. It's another big one out on the flat that way.
How about that?
Yes, look right there. His limit has been updated in there, and that moves him up unofficially to second place right now.
Mm-hmm.
Putting little pieces together. He said he, just caught a better fish to fill out his limits, and then we just got word that Brian Schmidt just caught a large fish, one that's they're estimating around 8 or 9 pounds.
Nice. That's. We're getting into that crunch time now with the water temperature, the sun being up and starting to warm. That 11, 12, 1 o'clock range, that's when it's going to start happening. And if Brian's got one that size, he's going to make a big move.
Maybe it's the fact that you've got Dudley right there, Schmidt right there, Drift right there.
Oh, did you hear that?
There's been some big ones caught in here.
Yeah. Scott has a way of finding those areas. Landing right on top of them.
You know you're fishing slow when you catch clams.
They're talking about those shell beds. That's, he's found a bare spot and throwing that Carolina rig in there, dragging along the bottom, and those little hard spots out there in the middle of the lake, in the middle of those hydrilla beds, are just bass magnets. They go straight to them for whatever. They don't eat the clams, but something that they eat eats the clams, and that's why they're there, checking on that stuff. And that's a key thing, to be able to find one of those shell beds out there in that open water and stay on it. You can literally catch a big stringer just making the same cast when you find those places. And a lot of times the only way to find them is with like a Carolina rig, or unless you're fishing a lipless bait, dragging it along the bottom or hopping it on the bottom, and you catch one. But to be able to actually feel them, you have to throw a Carolina rig or something with a heavy weight on it that you can kind of identify what's going on out there where you're fishing.
Go in a little thicker grass one round, see what happens.
We hope that's all it was.
We've got audio now from Tommy Dickerson on the right-hand side right there. Currently in third place, all the way up from 28th place to start the morning.
Monster move.
Change baits a little bit. I'm gonna mess around and do a little experimenting.
It's kind of interesting to watch the leaderboard, the way it moves up and down in these tournaments. And typically, in an event like this where you have a spawning situation, the guys that are leading it the first 2 days tend to, their catches tend to decrease as the tournament goes on, simply because they've burned through what fish are available to catch. And then, they base their whole tournament on that 1 or 2 days. And then it's a hang on, see if you can keep your lead by just fishing consistently. And then you got the guys that are out there where the fish live most of the time, fishing around bigger schools or bigger groups of fish, that it changes daily. You get fish that move in and move out. And it's a timing thing. Those guys have been consistent all week long with some really good catches of fish. And at any point in time, that can happen again. They kind of just creep through the day on a day like today, catching what they can catch, getting what bites they can catch. And it's always that 1 or 2 key bites that changes their day entirely. And those are the guys, that are trying to fish consistently that you, at the end of the week, are going to be in the top 5. And that's what you're kind of hoping for, and then a shot at being number 1. If the guys in front of you slip, that's what can change your day, is, hoping that somebody stumbles and you make up ground. And that's what's happened with Tommy. I mean, the guys in the lead are not catching those big stringers, not getting those big bites yet. And Tommy has wandered around in that area that he's been fishing all week under different conditions, catching smaller limits of fish, and all of a sudden today the wind has changed things completely. Now that it's triggered those bigger fish to feed a little bit more consistently, and here we go with a big stringer that's putting a big move on.
Talk about changing your day. We got Scott Martin changing his hat to try to maybe
that's a luck
put
thing.
a little rally cap.
Rally cap, absolutely.
Here's another change going on. Over to Aaron Britt. This is a Ranger replay.
Uh-oh.
And remember, Britt's had some fish, some crucial fish come off so far in the tournament so far.
Stay down, please stay down. Please.
And so that's got to be going through his head here.
Please stay down. Oh my God.
He's not excited, is he?
Stay down. Stay down.
And Britt was really frustrated earlier when he was losing those fish. So he gets this fish in the boat. This could really turn around his whole. But right there.
There it is, the look.
Yes, Aaron Britt.
That's just the same as a knockout in MMA, right?
It's just a matter of time.
That's delivering the punch.
Here, boy. It's just a matter of time.
What language is he speaking there? Is that something they do in California?
You see that?
Clear me up on that.
And now I believe this is now live.
I have not had one fish get it when I pump it out of that grass. It seems like when it's just winding, they just get it. I don't know if it's Florida or what, but even when I was up the Harris Chain, I caught a 10-pounder on the day 3 my rookie season, and same thing. They just don't. You just wind it and all of a sudden it just stops. Oh man, there's 30 pounds swimming out here. There's just no doubt about it. It's just wet. It's just where. Man, I could really use those 2 other fish right now. Huh. Huh. Huh.
Yeah, he's fishing again the right area there to get that big stringer.
Yeah,
fish.
man, just about 5 minutes ago I cast it out there and I got slacked on this trap and fouled me up and hit the spot lock on the trolling motor and made 2 or 3 more casts, and third cast I'm winding it and it's just basically just kind of mushed up, and I pulled back and it just felt mushy, and I said, man, I thought that was a fish. And as I'm saying that, 5-pounder comes jumping up with a trap down his throat, and we boxed him. So we got a 5 in the box now and 2 rats, and jumped a 4 off on a worm and jumped another 3 off on a trap. So, and we had the potential to have, 14 pounds right now, but it's still early, and we are going to be staying here all day until I at least put a limit in the boat. But even then, I'm more than certain we're going to be staying here fishing. But what a relief to get a fish in the boat worthy. It was a pretty epic deal. I feel like an idiot, though. I didn't really even know it was a fish. And it seems like these big ones have just been swimming up behind it and just inhaling it. And the little ones are absolutely jarring this thing when they get it. But we're around them, man. They're out here. And I'm all by myself. There's not a boat in sight. So, I mean, if I can just get these fish to cooperate, we'll be in good shape.
What he's doing right there, snapping that bait out of the grass, is a very typical thing that happens there. You're forced to do it most of the time, but a lot of times you want to do it to get those fish to react to that bait. You want to try and get those hooks a little bit, or the nose of that bait hitting that grass so that it stops and you rip it free, and trying to get that, again, that different sound out of that bait where they've been hearing the same thing consistently. All of a sudden it changes pitch, changes acts, and the fish react to it, and you get those bites. Unfortunately, some of those bites that are reaction bites, the fish will just slap at it and get the bait hung on the outside of his face, or, I call them headbutting it. They will headbutt it a lot of times. They just don't want it around them, and they don't want to eat, but they don't want it around them, and they slap at it. And those are the ones typically that you lose on the way to the boat.
My 3Fs, man: fishing, football, and fighting. It's pretty much how it goes down for me. Fishing at the top of the list, though. Whew. I sure could take another one of those. Man, the emotions throughout a day of fishing are like absolutely no other. Maybe more so for me just because I'm a lunatic, but man, my mind is racing 100 miles an hour. Do I go here? Do I go there? Do I stay longer? Do I pick this up? Do I pick that up? I got to give a lot of credit to, I got a buddy back home, Paul Bailey. He's taught me a lot. We've been buddies for a long time, and he's one of the main guys up at Clear Lake. So if you're around Clear Lake, hit him up for a guide trip. But he taught me a lot about this offshore grass fishing stuff. It's one of those things that we do back home, and he's the swim bait master, and he throws a lot of those glide baits back home. But he taught me a lot about how to do this, and I kind of just ran with it and started learning more and more and more by myself and and whatnot. But this is just an unbelievable way to catch them when they're out here. I'm throwing this trap on a 17-pound Seagar Tatsu, which is absolutely the best line in the world. And I'm throwing it on an iRod 734 spook trap rod. 734 is pretty much the most versatile rod in the lineup. I mean, you could throw swim jigs on it, top water, rattle traps, chatterbaits, spinnerbaits, even pitch a Cinco around. And it's just, man, these rods are just the absolute truth. You know, a lot of guys don't know about them back out east here, and they're really, really notorious back west. But you know, there's a couple guys on the elites and MLF that rep them. But again, if you guys haven't picked up one of these rods, man, you got to do yourself a favor and do it. This wind is not as bad as I thought it was going to be, but it's apparently definitely affecting the bite, for sure. I'm kind of starting to think it might have pushed these fish up a little bit closer to that Kissimmee grass, but I don't really have time to go up there and guess. You know, I feel like when I get on a spot like this, I just got to fish where I got bites and kind of follow my tracks around. But this area is huge. I got about a 200-yard stretch, basically of, probably longer than that, probably 300-yard stretch of hydrilla, drills off the bottom about 2.5, 3 feet. And then on the other side, I got pepper grass. But the problem with that pepper grass is that you can't get a trap through that pepper grass. You can, you could throw on the edges of it, but the problem with that is it's so windy that I can't see the edges of it. So out here over this hydrilla, it allows me to basically just kind of cast this freely, throwing it on a 7-to-1. Allows me to wind it fairly slow, but once I do button one up, I can get it to the boat. Keep them out of the grass, because a lot of times you hook these fish. It seems like big ones, every time you hook a big one, it comes straight to the top and jumps about 14 times before you get to the boat and gives you about a heart attack. But both big ones I caught yesterday, actually I caught 3 big ones yesterday, and every one I hooked was, I was by myself yesterday, and they'd come up and jump 5, 6 times before coming to the boat, and you're just praying that it doesn't spit that trap. You know, I lost one on a worm earlier, 4-pounder. I don't know how. It bit it. I fed it to him, and I popped him, and it came up. First time it opened its mouth and came to the surface, it shot my bait out. But you know, that would have gone a long, long way right now. But nonetheless, man, I'm fishing on Saturday. I'm happy. I'm getting paid. It's going to go all right back into the bank so I can continue doing this, though. Try to win this thing. It'd be nice. There it is.
Guy like Aaron.
There we go.
Oh, come on. Did it? Yeah. A guy like Aaron, when you got a camera and a mic on him, oh, look, it's one of those.
Don't do it.
Like a bass, only smaller.
Don't do it. Relax.
Yeah, when you got a camera on a guy like Aaron, a microphone, it makes our job pretty easy. We just kind of sit back and let him do the show, and I think he talks more than Scott Martin.
All right.
A little bit more than Brian Thrift. A little bit more entertaining than Brian Thrift.
Next one's gonna be bigger.
Yeah, Britt's a guy that I know pretty well. He's made a good name for himself in California. Has had quite a bit of success in his short career so far. Has really moved up quickly and is now fishing at the highest level and doing well. You know, he talked about, he alluded that his rookie season caught a 10-pounder on Harris and had a good finish at the Cup that year, and is just really represented California well, and is also exciting to watch. Even if he's catching them, even if he's not catching them, he does give you a lot of insight of what's going on.
And that's what's really good about FLW Live. When you get a guy like that, you get a lot of information that's, pertinent to what's going on right then. And that's the live feedback that we're looking for. You don't get that a lot of times with tape delay.
Absolutely. You know? Now, we've hit the halfway mark so far in the day, and we've seen some fish catching, but all these anglers talking about those bigger fish being caught, and we're starting to see that, starting to see some limits be filled, starting to see those bigger fish. So we're going to have a lot more live coverage for another 3 hours, but we're going to step away from the lake right now and step over to Flippin, Arkansas, and do a little tour through the Ranger factory, see where these amazing boats are made and how they're made.
If you ever get the chance to go to Ranger and take the factory tour, I highly recommend it. It's probably one of the most interesting things you can do. To see a boat built from the ground up, you'd be amazed at the process. It's not quite what you think it would be. And to see the quality that goes into these boats. I've been with Ranger my whole career, and it's probably the best fishing platform in the country as far as comfort, and reliability and quality, it's no other. You know, Ranger has set the benchmark for years and years.
Without a doubt, and let's take a look now.
Ranger Boats, a name that's withstood the test of time for more than 50 years. It's the first choice of serious anglers because of a higher standard throughout every step of construction, using only the best materials and construction methods. The result is the famous Ranger quality that continues to lead the industry, backed by ceaseless research and innovations to ensure it'll stay that way. Come along on an in-depth look at Ranger's headquarters in Flippin, Arkansas. It's here that the people and processes have created one of the strongest reputations in fishing. But first, let's introduce you to the legendary guiding principles that define Ranger. It's called the 5-star advantage. This is an unconditional guarantee that every Ranger boat is built with the utmost quality, with cutting-edge innovation and superior all-around performance and safety that leads to lasting resale value. We've built every single Ranger boat on these 5 principles, from blueprint to boat ramp. First and foremost is quality. Attention to detail and pride in craftsmanship are hallmarks of the Ranger brand and deliver unmistakable quality from bow to stern. Next is innovation. Patents for many of the innovations have made Ranger boats more angler-friendly and desirable for their all-around performance. Advantage number 3 is performance, and that means much more than how fast it will go. It includes fishability, quietness, handling, comfort, stability, and of course, wide open speed. Fourth is safety, and from the beginning, Ranger has been a perennial giant in the world of boating safety. Ranger helped pioneer flotation standards that not only met, but surpassed those set by the U.S. Coast Guard. And finally, advantage number 5 is made possible by the first 4 points, resale value. Ranger is building high-quality, innovative, safe, all-around performing custom boats. When it comes to building a Ranger, there's always been an intense focus on quality and excellence here in the Flippin, Arkansas plant. It's right here that Ranger people still build these quality boats, one at a time. Every new Ranger boat begins with a design that moves from a 3D object on a computer screen to a life-size model made of wood and clay. It's carved, cut, sanded, and shaped into something known as a plug. It's the plug that will be used to build the mold from which every fiberglass boat is made. You see, Ranger constructs their boats from the outside in. It starts with polishing the mold to a high gloss that prevents sticking when the boat hull is removed later on. Then it's masked off for each unique design element, such as the famous Comanche striping in various colors. The mold is then wheeled into a climate-controlled paint booth, where both temperature and humidity are carefully monitored, ensuring that gel and paint cure fully, which gives a Ranger boat the best looking and most durable finish anywhere. The first layer applied is actually the outside of the boat when it's finished, and for polymer boats, this is called the clear coat. Then additional layers of color are added. And notice that Ranger uses highly trained craftsmen, not robots, to deliver quality custom finishes. It's this attention to detail and quality inside and out that makes Ranger unique. It's about building a boat that fits you perfectly, and with the high level of customization, there is no one better to trust with your dream rig than the fine folks from Flippin, Arkansas. The next step is the lamination process. It begins as a lightweight coat of fiberglass that acts as a barrier between the gel coat and the rest of the laminate. Then additional chop strand fiberglass is layered to create a mat until it reaches the desired thickness. Ranger has learned through real-world testing that stresses vary by location on a boat. This is addressed through a process called zone tempering. This simply means that Ranger builds the hull to varying thicknesses to account for the amount of stress a specific area might see throughout its lifetime. The high stress points on the hull receive additional layers of what's called woven roving. This is fiberglass that's woven together in the direction that needs strengthening. Applying multiple layers creates a sandwich of super strong fiberglass. A second type of fiberglass is used to temper the hull and is made from continuous roving. This is a rope-like stranded fiberglass that's saturated with resin and laid in the strakes, which adds incredible strength to the whole bottom. Once it's cured, continuous strand fiberglass takes on properties similar to rebar that's used in construction. That adds tremendous directional strength because of the very high fiberglass content. Ranger uses this superglass, while many other manufacturers use a putty compound that's prone to chip, break, and crumble. The hull is starting to resemble a boat. So let's take a closer look at what makes the inside of a Ranger so special and how we deliver that signature one-piece feel. Beginning at the back of the boat is what is called the pultruded fiberglass transom. After that, the stringers are added. These stringers are made of 100% fiberglass, so there's no wood to rot and no mystery composites anywhere. What you can't see inside the stringers is the injected closed-cell flotation foam in every available cubic inch. This leaves no gaps, spaces, or holes, and is the first step in delivering that famous Ranger one-piece feel. The foam has a weight of about 2 to 2.5 pounds per cubic foot, so for its weight, it's extremely strong and buoyant. And in addition to buoyancy, the foam insulates and dampens noise in the hull. Located on either side of the transom are foam tanks, which in addition to flotation, also add strength and help unitize the rear of the boat, offering support unlike any other design. Some manufacturers use their rear deck for support, but the Ranger cutaway boat proves a rear deck isn't necessary to fully function. It's the combination of fiberglass stringers, foam flotation, and pultruded material that gives each Ranger boat that unshakable foundation and solid feel for which these boats are known. The Ranger deck is built upside down and receives a gel coat and painted layer as its first step. Then, the fiberglass is laminated very much like the hull and uses zone tempering and pultrusion techniques to strengthen the overall structure. As the deck weaves its way through the production cycle, various parts are added onto it. Live wells, storage boxes, and locker lids are all fiberglassed into place. The deck is now ready to be removed from its mold. It's secured, hoisted upward, then rotated 180 degrees so it's right side up. At this point, it is one solid piece of laminated fiberglass with no holes for consoles, wiring access, accessories, or electronics. These openings are precision cut with a computer-controlled 7-axis robotic water jet that uses 53,000 pounds of water pressure to slice cleanly through the fiberglass, taking only a few seconds at each predetermined spot. Pultrusion is added in places where a gas strut attaches to a box lid, the trolling motor, seat bases, and other high-stress areas. What is pultrusion and why is it so important? In the late 1980s, Ranger invented its application in boat transoms, receiving a patent for its unique boat construction technique. Pultrusion anchors the strength in every Ranger boat. Extrusion is when a piece of molten metal is forced through a die, giving it a new shape and a consistent cross-section. Pultrusion simply is the reverse of that, and instead of metal, Ranger uses fiberglass. Pultrusion combines mats and woven roving, saturates it in resin, then pulls it through a heated die. The final product is pound for pound stronger than steel and has incredible screw retention. Pultrusion is significant in that depending on where it's needed and how strong it needs to be, different kinds and layers of fiberglass add strength in a particular direction. This is more important as today's boats are carrying larger four-stroke outboards, plus more accessories such as shallow water anchors. It's finally time to bring the hull and deck together. But before the two halves are mated, foam is added around the parts to solidify their position, and it adds another layer of support, complementing the one-piece feel. Next, industrial-grade bonding adhesive is applied atop the pultruded flooring on the hull. It's this combination of adhesive and pultruded flooring that gives the deck and hull the strongest bond possible. Lowering the deck into place, the two come together in what's called a shoebox fit, which means the deck slightly overlaps the top of the hull. From this point on, the boat is glassed together, built to feel and perform as one solid piece. Another innovative Ranger manufacturing technique is called closed cavity bag molding, or CCBM. And the consoles, storage box lids, live wells, and even trailer fenders are made using this process. Continuous strand fiberglass mat is laid on the mold, while a polymer bag is wrapped around it. A high suction vacuum pulls resin through and around the fiberglass, creating the new part, which, thanks to the CCBM process, benefits from greater consistency and less emissions, creating a more environmentally friendly product with repeatable results. Now that your Ranger is in one piece, it heads over to what's called the finishing room, where it will receive every option and amenity you selected, from trolling motors, electronics, accessories, and the outboard engine. The first step is wiring the boat, and Ranger is diligent about this task. Ranger boats aren't cookie cutter, and wiring is no exception. Every model has its own wiring harness custom built in the plant for each boat. Every wiring harness is tested for complete functionality before it's installed. And when it comes to customization, you choose what goes on your boat. From GPS fish finders to power poles, you get to decide what makes the boat uniquely yours. At Ranger, you choose your engine and brand to power your new dream boat. It's just another example of how Ranger offers the highest degree of customization. After the outboard is hung and connected, your boat receives the final touches, including custom-matched seats and upholstery. Every Ranger features ergonomically designed and bolster-molded foam seat cushions that are covered in marine-grade vinyl. We also use lightweight components and no wood in our seats to ensure durability over time. And where applicable, a padded front casting deck and recessed trolling motor foot pedal relieve stress on your back. These pieces are hand-delivered to the finish room and installed in time to have your Ranger water tank tested to be sure everything is working as it should. Finally, your new Ranger meets its custom-built Ranger Trail trailer. Ranger pioneered custom-fit trailer designs, and today Ranger Trail sets the standard in quality, safety, and longevity. Every curve and every weld is formed in a closely monitored environment to ensure the highest quality from beginning to end of the production process. Every trailer is built from channel steel instead of tube steel, because tube steel has a closed-off interior that traps moisture and can rust from the inside out. Plus, we add a special blend of our road armor-equipped coating to our frames, which is a super tough polyurea sprayed-on coating that's similar to popular truck bed coatings. The trailer is a very important part of your investment because there's so much riding on it. Ranger Trail trailers evolved alongside our boats. As new hull designs were developed, Ranger tailored the trailers to match so that every boat has a custom-built, form-fitting trailer. The axles on a Ranger Trail trailer are protected inside and out by way of a hot-dip galvanized finish and benefit from our exclusive torsion axle system that provides independent suspension for each individual tire. Also, every light on our trailers is an LED, which is powered via custom-built wiring harness and utilizes heat shrink connectors. Every brake is a disc brake, which provides superior clamping and stopping power. Finally, we've recently incorporated an optional parking brake system that mechanically locks the wheels in place. The center-mounted jack and swing-away tongue make securing and storing your rig easier. After your Ranger is matched with its trailer, it's hauled to a staging yard where it will soon be delivered to you, the newest member of the Ranger family. Whether you're a current or prospective Ranger owner, we thank you for your time and interest. For us, there's no higher honor than to be able to make your dream come to life. Let us know how we can do that. Call, write, or email us today to learn how to become a part of the strongest family in fishing, the Ranger family.
Welcome back to FLW Live here on Lake Toho, presented by Ranger Boats. Here's a look at the unofficial leaderboard. John Cox still looking for that 5th fish. Scott Martin completed his limit with a nice little 3.5 pounder for his 5th fish, moving him all the way up into 2nd place. And of course, Tommy Dickerson moving from 28th all the way up to 3rd place with that 23, around 23 pound bag he's got, with unofficially 3 6-pound bass in that bag. And Aaron Britt getting a good sign. He had a tough start to the morning, and you really saw, he was having kind of mind games with himself. Should he move? Should he run to Kissimmee? But I think with that nice 5-pound bass he just caught before the break, he's now a little bit more confident in this area, and I think we're probably going to see him there the rest of the day.
I would think that that would be the decision that he would make, and he said there's no need for me to run an hour now to go fish someplace else. The fish that he needs to do well are right there where he's at. It's just a matter of when they decide to bite and getting them in the boat. He's obviously having a little difficulty with that, but the potential is there. He's right where he needs to be.
And there's that Brian Thrift, 24th place right now. He has a knack for sticking around. I wouldn't be surprised to see him make a little run and make it close, that top 10 finish.
All these guys are in the areas where these fish live. It's just a matter of waiting on, being able to get those bites. Buddy Gross here is, he's sticking with his guns. He's got his limit. He's just got to upgrade now. So let's see what happens with him.
So I'm back to the spot where I started. I just pulled in here and caught 2 pretty quick. It's just one of them places. It just has to, after you catch 1 or 2, it just dies and you got to come back later. I just have to keep coming back. The only problem is my size is getting smaller. I've not caught, today's the first day I've caught anything less than 3.5. Everything I got today's small out of here. I think I've caught 4 of my 5 right here on this spot, but I think I'm gonna have to abandon ship and just start fishing some water that I practiced on. I caught a lot of good fish in practice in a lot of different ways. I think I'm just gonna go back to it, fish for a while, and then just keep checking this place off periodically, off and on. I've not had a kicker during the tournament yet, and it's every day of practice I had at least 1, maybe 2. So I think it's time just to go fishing here in a minute. Got a few boats close right now. I'm gonna let them try to ease out just so I can leave this place alone. Then I think I'm gonna go back to the thicker stuff for a little while.
And he just talked about those quick 2 fish he caught. Here is a look at them right now.
Making a move and coming back like he did, it was a smart thing. It gives those fish a chance to forget. It worked for him here.
And throwing downwind again.
Throwing downwind again. Angles a lot of times are everything. Another solid keeper right there. When you don't have to measure them, throw them in the well, it gives you 5. Then all of a sudden, again, you're fishing from a little bit more relaxed position. You heard him talking about maybe making a move and just fishing some new water or some clean water that he hasn't been on since practice. I mean, that can't hurt him. That absolutely cannot hurt him. And Buddy's a tremendous Tennessee River angler. Who has a lot of experience with grass and understands how these fish set up and this stuff.
Tolas and SVs and the Fitzgerald rods they've been tough. I've been putting them on the workout. I get the fish hooked and I don't go to them. I just drag them out. They get watered up with grass. It weighs 50 pounds when I'm bringing it in. Come on, big mama. Every other day, with the water being calm too, I could see fish bust every now and then around, and it usually give a good indication where they were at the time. They're just moving. They're just not sitting still for whatever reason. They following the bait or following the food source, whatever, but they always come back and congregate here. I just wish I knew where they went when they leave.
If we had the ability to know that, we'd all be expert anglers.
And a pre-spawn deal. It's not just been pre's sitting here waiting to go in.
It looks like in the background there it's starting to cloud up a little bit. So again, we're having another change in the conditions. And who knows how that's going to affect the fish. I mean, we'll see as it goes along. It's definitely going to make it tighter, harder on John Cox if he's actually running back to try and sight fish. Because now, in addition to the wind, you have the lack of sunlight. It's going to make it really tough.
Just trying to rotate through all the different baits. See if I can trick one more before I leave. Fishing this braid on these rods, and the bite is so vicious. I was telling my cameraman earlier, I was standing in the weigh-in line yesterday. Had my bag in my hand, had my head turned, and my fish jumped in the bag. I tried to set the hook on my bag yesterday.
Oh. Like he shook off some grass right there.
I think I got anxious on that one.
You throw on a swim jig like he's doing right now and you bump up against the grass, it's hard to tell a lot of times, even with braid. It just depends on how the fish are biting. You know, he mentioned that they were really jarring it really hard the last 2 days, and you know, and that's kind of what he's expecting to feel, and the bites probably are completely different today with what we're seeing.
Sometimes angles on these fish help, so I'll try a different angle for a minute.
Move back now, got John Cox on the screen again. He's made a move somewhere.
I think John definitely is fishing the most fishy-looking water.
Yeah, you know, but here's the deal. On these lakes, there's no place that doesn't look good. I mean, there's so much water that all looks the same.
We ended up leaving, and we're back up in Toho now. I didn't like how it felt down there. So we decided to come back up here and give it a try. I think I got 4 in there. They're all really small.
kind of looks like John is down in the southeast corner of the lake, an area called Whaley's Landing. He's up there as close as he can get to where he can see the bottom and looking for fish, obviously. You know, he's in that spawning area that's down there on that corner of the lake. In the far distance up there, you can see a point of land coming out. That's where Tommy is, up in that section.
No, I haven't been over here yet. You know, I haven't had to come down here because the wind's been pretty calm. But today the wind's as windy as it is today. I figured I'd take a look at it real quick. You know, it's an area that has potential to get really good. Beds. There's a lot more beds in here already from last time I was in here.
Now, Miles Berghoff, one of our anglers, one of our rookie anglers, having a great start to the season. Strong finish at Sam Rayburn, and then barely missing the cut for today. But luckily he stuck around, and we were able to catch up to him and get his take on how Toho is fishing this year. So now we throw it over to Miles.
Hey, thanks, guys. Sonar here at Big Toho Marina, and as you can see behind me, we've got a lot more wind today, which is a huge factor, especially for this type of tournament on the Kissimmee chain. Traditionally, the Kissimmee chain is all about that grass, the emergent vegetation and the submerged vegetation and how it's set up. And this time around, I have a lot of experience out here. I went to UCF here in town, and so I've got a lot of time on this chain, and I've never quite seen it with the grass this sparse, and that's a big factor in this tournament this week, I think. I had a mediocre first day. I only had about 10 pounds, and really had to run some new water that I've never fished before because of the way the grass is set up, and was able to rebound with an 18-pound bag. I was essentially fishing, a lot of the same stuff that a lot of guys were fishing is those prime spawning areas, but I was fishing the more traditional ones that were getting a lot of pressure, and it wasn't until I fished those areas that I have never been to before that it just really started happening for me on the second day. And the reason why I was able to fish some areas that I've never even caught a fish in before is because traditionally I'm looking for those banks for spawning fish that are protected from the wind. You normally have a day like today during the spring. We've got a lot of wind, and those banks that are exposed to the wind generally don't play. But since we've had, for the last 2 days, absolutely calm weather. I mean, it's been flat calm, perfect conditions for spawning, and that's really opened up all of the areas of these lakes. And even if there's not a giant population of fish in a certain area, there's enough for a really, really good bag, and that's kind of what I saw yesterday. And I think that's why we saw a lot of big bags brought to the scales, is because it's really, wide open. This chain is absolutely, the last 2 days, you can fish everywhere. But today is a different deal. Today we've got a lot of wind. A lot of those areas that were exposed, that weren't your traditional, protected spawning bays, are going to be blown out. You're going to start seeing some dirtier water. People are going to start moving around, and I'm seeing that on the live feed. Is a lot of the guys are starting to move around, look for new water, and really try to find something new, because a lot of those areas are getting blown out. Another thing that I'm seeing, and it was something that kind of played for me yesterday, I caught one of my big ones on a chatterbait, is I think a lot of these fish are pulling off into the next available cover and also into the open water areas where you've got some submerged grass like hydrilla, maybe a little bit of coontail, and maybe a little bit of eelgrass too, which played a little bit for me yesterday. And so you're seeing those guys that are going out into that open water fishing for post-spawn bass really playing today and starting to catch some fish, because that bite is going to get stronger as the wind gets stronger as well.
Great insight from Miles. Strong finish here, barely missing the cut, finishing 36th place, but definitely cashing a check for his second event, second straight event cashing checks, and I think we're going to see a lot out of this rookie this year. But while he was talking, John Cox looked like he caught his fifth fish and filled out his limit.
That's right. He's you know, making it work. And you see he's casting and covering water, but his eyes are straight down looking at all the little, you know, trying to find one laying on a bed somewhere, because he knows that's what he's going to need is one big bite. And it can come in a lot of different ways.
Now let's talk about how crucial that one big bite is out on this body of water. You got a 5-fish limit. Right now, he's filled all 5 of those slots, but with pretty small fish, 1.5, 2 pound class. That quality size big monster bass can come in a few different ways as well and can really bump him up.
It makes all the difference in the world. I mean, because of the availability of big fish in these waters, everybody else is going to do the same thing. Everybody else will have the same opportunity, and if you don't capitalize, there he is landing that 5th fish and kind of taking a load off. You see him putting the power poles down to hold him in position, not to move off of that area.
5 giants.
And those power poles, you know, especially in this situation, are so critical to this style of fishing. Before they came along, you know, we had to use an anchor or a push pole or something to try and hold us in position to fish when we got in an area where there were beds or fish we were sight fishing for. And the power poles have really revolutionized that fishing, made it so much easier for us to position our boat to be able to fish for these fish and be quiet and not move around a lot. And they're critical in this situation right here. But back to that big fish situation, if you don't catch it, somebody else is going to, and they're going to leapfrog past you. Just, you know, by catching a 6-pound fish and getting rid of a 1.5-pound fish, you know, all of a sudden they've got a, you know, that much of an advantage over you if you're doing this. You know, everybody's catching the same thing. So it's got to happen if you're going to move forward in this deal.
And going to your point with being able to, you know, power down the power poles put you in one place, and you know, Cox is a great person to get clued into things, right? So he gets that bite right there. If it's a smaller fish,
I mean, I'm still just trying to, you know, I'm fishing for 2 big ones, you know, so I'm just gonna, you know, I'm just gonna chunk around. I'm gonna keep looking, and I mean, I can see pretty good over here, so. And I'm already seeing a lot of really good beds, so I'm just kind of hoping either, you know, catch a little male and then, you know, ease up in there and see a big female sitting on that bed, or throw back in there and catch a big female. So.
And he just completed that thought I was bringing up. Is he catch that small fish?
I wish I would have came in here yesterday.
He will follow up in that exact spot, hoping that there is a bigger female right
I mean,
there.
That male's job when they're spawning is to protect the nest and protect the female. I've watched them many times where, you know, you're fishing that bed trying to catch that female, and the male will pick up the bait or actually push the female away from the bait to keep her from eating it, because he knows, you know, there's a problem there. And it's just amazing to watch these fish when they set up on beds, how they act. And every fish on a bed is not the same. They're individuals just like human beings. And when you're fishing for them, you have to find out what that particular fish's trigger may be to catch that fish. And it's a cat and mouse game. And it's really fun and interesting. It can be nerve-wracking in a tournament because you're looking at what you have to have and you're not able to catch it. You know, it's really can be frustrating. Or a lot of times you push up in there and it's the first bite, you know, and you've caught a 10-pound fish, and it happens all the time. So, you know, bed fishing, John's going to find a fish before it's all said and done. It's going to possibly be the one that makes the difference. We've got the split screen up there of Tommy Dickerson. He's still up there doing his thing. Has he improved his catch anymore since we've seen him last, or is he still right there where he needs, you know, right there where he was when we left him?
It looks like he has hasn't added to that limit yet. You know, we talked about those 3 6-pounders he's caught. And some of these other anglers, as they're filling out their limits, is Scott Martin, John Cox, both putting fish in. Josh Douglas keeps increasing his limit, has slowly pushed Tommy Dickerson down a little bit now to 4th place.
It may be 12 o'clock while they do it.
I think Tommy will be safe as the day goes on. I think he'll still be a top 10 guy with that, but you know, still a lot of time. Those Kissimmee guys could make it happen in a short period of time.
Yeah, like I said, maybe a 200-yard stretch there, you know, kind of the inside grass. And like I said, it's basically just, I think these fish are all going right in there to spawn. It's just kind of deal where they stick out here a little, live out here in this grass on this huge flat, which this whole thing is basically a flat, but a lot of hydrilla. Most of the hydrilla seems to be on the south end of this lake. But like I said, you can find clumps of grass out here that may have fish, you know. It hadn't been the perfect opportunities the last couple of days to find them because they just wasn't biting. No wind, no nothing. Just, I think they were just stuck in that grass and not moving at all. I flipped hydrilla for one whole day and only got 2 bites. Little hydrilla out here.